is where all the action is today, at the Atlantis room. Yes, Daniel Sheehan, Jada Zero here, Mitch Randall with the Robbins. So I got here early to try and get a good seat. I've got my normal, I've just got my normal badge today. But hopefully I'll be able to get a good seat and listen to what Danny has to say. Got what? It's one of the best T-shirts I've seen so far.
Oh, thank you.
I want to. If I know the feeling, yes.
I've had like 5 people tell me that so far today.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Thanks very much.
I got.
There is the man himself. Get ready to do his talk. Hey guys, it's kicking off now. There's Danny, ready to do his talk. That's it. They've specifically asked for no filming at all. I'm going to respect their wishes. I'm not even going to create any clips of the speaker this time. Okay, so I'll tell you all about the speaker later on. And of course, what else I use to write my notes with, but the new Paradigm Institute pen that Danny gave me last year. Hey Steve, how you doing? I was just watched Danny doing his stuff. Yep. And just he's very interesting. I'm here with Steve again.
He's talking to Ben. He's talking to Ben. Ben.
Hey, how you doing? Hey Jim. Hi Kathy. Jim and Kathy are there again, yeah. I've just seen Danny Sheehan do his talk. It was very interesting. I'll say more about the content of the talk later. But I met this lady called Jocelyn, and she gave me this. This is a badge which she designed, and she carries around. She always gives them. Oh, she's given one to this lady as well.
I have.
Oh, nice one. So there you go. I mean, she's been giving these out to people. She's a nice lady. She's a friend of Melinda Leslie, and I think it's really nice. She painted that picture. Event Horizon. That's like her own design for this particular conference. Yeah. Up next is JJ and Zero Hertak. I don't know if I want to see that, to be honest. It's remote viewing essentials. I might actually go over and talk to Sandra Sneed and maybe get an interview with her instead. And then there's Mitch Randall talking about AI. As you know, I'm not an AI person, but I might go in there anyway, just so I'm in the room when, well, you know, it's to do with Peter Robbins. I'll explain later. There we go, that's what's coming up next. Hello, I'm Jocelyn. It's the artist who created this little... You've got one yourself there, haven't you?
Yeah.
And what gave you the idea for these?
I see these guys. So.
Oh, nice.
So I painted them because I thought.
Oh, that's really, really...
But I give out these buttons every year. For every conference that I go to.
Do you have a different design for every one?
Yeah.
Oh well, it's really, really nice. Thanks. You must have hundreds of them because I've seen loads of people wearing them. So.
Oh, good.
But you see them as well. You actually have counters and things like that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Here, let me give you one from last year.
Oh right, cool.
And I think after our lecture,
you might get the chance to see an actual alien now, which would be quite something.
Here's the one from last year.
Ron called me after.
All right. Oh, so that's Adamski craft, yeah.
George Adamski gave this photo to my mom.
But I told a few people like her.
So she actually has the original photo of it?
Yeah. Well, I
that's a called me and Amber knew the question.
She passed away.
And then at the end, you were like long pause, and you're like
UFO library.
That's a classic photo of that. So you've got the original picture. That's amazing. That's from the year before last, 2023.
Oh, year before last. Yeah, I wasn't here last.
But it's really lovely. Yeah. Oh, brilliant! Excellent. Thanks, Jocelyn. Thanks very much. Do you have a website where anyone can find out about you?
No, I don't. Not right now. But
it's great to meet you.
As soon as I finish my book, I'll put my website right back up.
It's great to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, how you doing? I'm having a little wander around. I just had a chat with Ian and Mona again in the restaurant. It's really here I'm walking back from the far side. I went to look for Sandra. She's not there at the moment. And I've decided not to go back into the auditorium until maybe just towards the end of the discussion by the AI guy, Mark Richards, or whatever he's called, because I want to be in the room when Peter Robbins is there, because I might try and get me banned like he did at OLM. I probably not. I mean, it looks like he probably won't try anything like that. I mean, it's been many years now, and even though I'm not speaking to him, he's not speaking to me. Still, I don't think he would bear a grudge that long to that intensity. So I'm just going to go in there and sit down. I won't, and I hope Chris Evers is watching this, because he's going to see me sit in there in with in a perfectly professional, gentlemanly manner, and not causing any trouble at all, and not indulging myself in my personal disputes by heckling him or throwing chairs around or any of the other things that Chris was so worried that I was going to do. So yeah, so this is going to. I think this is going to be a very, very telling couple of hours coming up, I think. And I think he's going to be. So it's going to be quite something. It's going to be very revealing. I'm just looking for the. Oh look, there they are. There's the aliens. The aliens are up there. But can I get a good shot of them? I'll have to see. Look at that. it's like one of them's like Russell. Well, they are based on the design of Russell. But I think they're bigger. They're a bigger version of Russell. Probably made by the same manufacturers. Hey, how about that?
Oh no, it was not.
Okay, he's just finished. This AI guy, what's his name? Mitch Randall. He's just finished his talk. Say more about it later, obviously. I'm now going to. This is the room now. In 10 minutes, Peter Robbins will be on. I'm actually going to stay. I'll actually stay in the room. I'm not going to leave because if he wants me out, I'm not going to be outside the room. I'll let the bouncers won't let me in. I want to be in the room. I want them to come up to me in front of everyone and tell me to leave. If that will work, I'll see how it goes. Depends how many people stay there. Because if too many people leave, if too many people leave, I'll have to leave because it'll be too obvious that I'm in here. So we'll see what happens. Oh, that is a fantastic T-shirt. The beautiful thing is the mysterious Albert Einstein in fancy sunglasses. Brilliant. Hello, I'm here with Lorian Fenton. Hi, Lorian.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
It's great to see you again. Yeah, how are you two at the moment?
I'm okay.
Right? Well, that was a good start. I'm terribly sorry. I'll get you. Let me get you another one.
Okay, that was fun.
Yeah, well,
I got to wear my
drink.
drink.
Lorian's water.
Okay.
But some note. But so yeah, what are you up to these days? Anything?
I just got through producing UFO Con in San Francisco. We had a blast. I wish you guys could all be there with us. It's so much fun. It's a very intimate conference, a lot like this one in the caliber of speakers, but a smaller event where you guys can hang out with the speakers and do things. My buddy Nicholas is bringing me another glass of water.
Thanks, Nicholas. Sorry about
Thanks.
that.
Thank you. Hi, good to see you guys. Okay, well, anyhow, folks, do be well. Look up, watch those UFOs, and hi to the UK.
Yeah, well said, Lorian. Thanks very much.
You bet.
Now this lady's got a brilliant T-shirt. Look, Bigfoot with the alien on it. Oh, very good. It's Tom Curtis. Listeners of HPANWO Radio will know this gentleman because he was a guest of mine. So I've met him now.
Happy to be a guest. Thank you for having me again.
You're very welcome. It's great. Very interesting talking about air safety and things like that. I went on to write an article in UFO Truth magazine about that. Actually.
Excellent.
So it's great.
Please make me aware of that. I'd love to read it.
I will. I'll get a copy to you. I'm sure Gary won't mind. I'll send you a free copy. Will do. Good to meet you. Found a reptilian alien. Did you see him? Yeah, he's definitely a reptilian. So we're here at this little area. We've eaten our tacos and now we're listening. Jimmy Church was on. Now there's a DJ.
I started out at 6 o'clock in the morning in Santa Monica.
We met him too, so that's really cool. We're just looking for Ashton Forbes right now.
7 a.m.
You might not be able to see this, ladies and gentlemen. There's distinct stars poking through the high cloud. You probably can't see them, but they're there. It's like night is full. As I said before, there's no twilight here. It's like one moment it's daylight, and the next moment it's night. There's no real dusk here in the desert. Yeah, it's just night. And suddenly, see, literally half an hour ago, it was broad daylight here, and now it's pitch dark. That's just it takes some getting used to here. One of the things that takes getting used to. Well, he's there. The man without whom no UFO conference is complete. The one and only Mr. Nick Pope. What on earth is that? That's even weirder than Nick Pope, and that's really saying something. Decorated lift doors was another American thing. Now I'm going to a sort of like a secret meeting. It's not that secret, it's just like the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. They want like an event, like a private party. Which, of course, I'm joining the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance, so I'm kind of allowed to go. So I'm going to head there now. It's in one of the rooms. I don't know if there's no secret password, I don't think, so I just have to... But you can look, you get like a... Oh, whoa, it's like a bit precarious up here, but you can actually see down to the people down below. Anyway, here we go. Hey, how you doing? Well, that was an experience and 3/4. What happened there? Well, yeah, when I went up in the lift, I went to the room. It was actually the wrong room, the number they gave me. But it was like a... It was literally like a secret party inside in this hotel room. I say room, it was like an entire suite. There was like a big lounge area and a huge balcony. And there's even an upstairs area with some bedrooms and some toilets and things. And there were drinks, massive bottles of drinks everywhere. Sandwiches. I don't think I want any breakfast tomorrow because I had like... Oh, how many sandwiches do I have? Oh, there's only crossover. Thank you. And there were like canapes and sandwich and like prawn cocktails, and there was like a nice bucket full of bottles of beer. It was literally backstage at the Rolling Stones. I mean, it was like that what it was like. And like with these rock star places, like these concerts, all the sort of rock stars of ufology was there. I saw loads of them, and all the people you can imagine were there. Not Peter Robbins, luckily. Everyone else. I saw James Fox. There's Bryce Zabel, not Ross Coulter, apparently sleeping off his jet lag at the moment. There was Belinda Leslie turned up, and then her friends Jocelyn, and there was Todd Curtis came along, and a few other people, and there's Vinnie Adams was there, Richard Dolan. Nick Pope turned up, and I even spoke to him. I said, "Hey Nick, how are you? Haven't seen you for a while." He said, "Nice to see you." I said, "You too, Nick." I wasn't going to be a dickhead and start bringing up reopening old wounds at a major social event, which I'd been invited to with enormous courtesy by Dan Harari. I'm not going to start being a dickhead at a social event where he's laying on all that beer and food. The least I can do is be polite and respectful, and not sort of like use this opportunity to vent personal grievances. But it was literally like a good old Hollywood kind of upstairs party kind of thing. It was completely secret, I only found out about it because Dan actually invited me and he told me which room to go to. I'd forgotten actually, but then I met another lady who was going and she reminded me. And so I saw those people, I had a nice talk with people, nice conversations with the people who were there. And Bryce Zabel, you recognised me, you remembered me from Leeds 2011, and that was good fun. And I had some sandwiches. I've taken one home with me actually, and one of these sort of like sandwiches they provided, and it was just really, really pleasant. It was really, really lovely. And Caroline Corey was there, and Jocelyn. I was taking photographs with Jocelyn's camera of her and all her friends. She was giving out her badges, these badges here, to people. She's such a sweetheart, and yeah, always lovely. But it broke up quite early actually. It broke up about it's only just gone 10 o'clock. So it only broke up about an hour after I left. So it's fun. It's fun, and I'm grateful to the people who invited me. I really am. And to Dan who organised it for the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. Very glad to have joined that. And to join the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance, you've got to pay a little fee, but it's considerably less than what you pay for like Sky or any of that bollocks. And all you've got to have done is like written a book or made a movie or something like that, which of course I've done, and be really, really into UFOs and stuff, and you can join the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. Yeah, and it's great fun. It's great to be involved. Oh, it's like a balmy, sultry night. I'd like to switch the aircon on. I left it switched off to save energy when I left, but I'll switch it back on as soon as I'm back in my room. And I've been out all day and I'm knackered, but it's a great first day of the conference. Brilliant first day. More coming to it. There'll be more people tomorrow. Apparently there's going to be about 7,000 people there. I thought it was only 1,000. There's going to be about 7,000 people there. And it's just like really, really lovely. And we went out in the thing out the back with we had tacos and there was like Jimmy Church doing a speech out on the lawn. And we were looking for Ashton Forbes because Ashton is in the building, so we looked around for him. I couldn't see him, but I'll see him tomorrow. no doubt I'll see him tomorrow. But I met, like I say, I met up with old friends, made some new friends, and it was great to Laurie and Fenton. I spent most of the afternoon with her actually, and she introduced me to the delights of ice hockey, or hockey as they call it here. And she was watching a very significant final between, was it the Edmonton Oilers and the Dallas something or other in the North West Conference playoff or something like that. I mean, it takes getting used to. To me, it looks like a bunch of guys with sticks hitting the ice randomly, but no, there was a puck, and they've got to hit the puck like you hit a football, and it's just this vulcanized rubber disc. It slides across the ice, and so that was fun. Yeah, that was awfully good fun. So I'm going back to my room, and I've left it. It's probably a good job it broke up early, because I was probably thinking of leaving anyway, so I can go and do my report on today's speakers. Not that I only saw 3 of them, or 2.5. So it won't be that much to report on, but it's good to leave time and energy to do that. And I also didn't have too much to drink. I had a few glasses of wine, so that's not too bad, is it? But it's all part of the fun. It's all part of the fun of being at a wonderful event like this. So, ladies and gents, cross over the road here, and we're off over to, I probably won't need any breakfast tomorrow now, so I'll sleep till about 8 o'clock and then head over about 8. And luckily you don't have to prepay for your breakfast, which is nice, so I won't be wasting anything. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, see you later. Right, well, hello everyone, hello, I'm back at the hotel now, and so it's that time when I think I should go through today's speakers. And the first one was Danny Sheehan of the New Paradigm Institute, and he talked about how he regarded Contacts in the Desert as a traditional UFO conference, and he also mentioned there were intriguing evidence in terms of the UFO issue from the mummies of Peru, and also the Booger sphere. Now, the mummies of Peru, as you know, I don't think much of. And the reason is because you may have seen my interview with Steve Mehrer. I think he's taken that case apart, quite frankly. I had a debate, if you remember, at the last Contacts in the Desert with a guy, what's his name, Dr. Monroe or something. He was on the Vetted podcast. But yeah, I think they're not true. The Boogosphere, I don't know about. I mentioned it in my last UFO disclosure video. It's a strange thing. My first instinct is to say, yeah, it's not true, but you know, it's like the Bet sphere and things like this, and that's orb that appeared at this airport in Britain as well. And he talks about 9,000-year-old stones, about how old these things are, about how there's carvings on them showing aliens. And he mentions Wilbert Smith. Now, Wilbert Smith is the famous Canadian scientist and electrical engineer and radio expert who wrote some manuscripts that have, using AI, Danny has actually managed to create like audio books of these manuscripts in Wilbert Smith's own voice based on recordings he made, which is quite extraordinary. And AI would come up again today. And so Danny congratulated on us, the delegates, for attending, but he said there were other people who should have been there, such as Lou Elizondo, Christopher Mellon, David Grush, Eric Davis, Chuck Schumer, Mike Round, etc. They're notable by being not there because Elizondo, Mellon, Grush, Davis, they're all whistleblowers. There could be reasons why they're not there. David Grush in particular, I think, is rather young and naive when it comes to the UFO issue, and I think that he, like I said earlier, Ross Coulthard probably told him to delete his Twitter because of all the abuse he'd get from the trolls. These bastards who just have nothing better to do. Puerile, as Ross says. Chuck Schumer and Mike Rounds, of course, tabled the amendment, the UFO Disclosure Amendment, which didn't go through. It would be good if they could be there, if they could actually appear. I mean, after all, David Baker, a sitting MP, actually spoke at Alternative View 3, Ian R. Crane's conference. So why shouldn't Schumer, and why shouldn't politicians, maybe others like Tulsi Gabbard, for example, and RFK Jr., why shouldn't they speak at these conferences? As for JFK Jr., well, he might put in an appearance at some point.
And he said there's still this residual taint, even though it's improved a lot. And I talked to Todd Curtis about this. Things have improved a lot, but there's still this residual taint. The Overton window hasn't shifted quite enough yet, and there's still a lot to do. But Danny went on to talk about his whistleblower protection law and other examples such as the Pentagon Papers to do with the Vietnam War, legal practices such as the whistleblowers into Israel's nuclear program, which was assisted illegally under the Non-Proliferation Treaty by the United States. And there's a guy, he was jailed for many years called Mordecai Manunu. He was an Israeli scientist who actually was jailed. His country put him in jail for speaking out about it. It's very, very bad that such a brave man should be treated like that. And he said that Lou Elizondo actually helped set up the New Paradigm Institute, and he talked about something called Rule 1 or Rule 11, which is I didn't get all the details of that, but it's to do with whistleblowers. What is known about non-human intelligence? Definitely, some of the UFOs are, and the government knows it, and conducts and engaged in disinformation campaigns and suppression. The current state of disclosure. In June of 1945, there was the Trinity encounter. I'm sure Robert Oppenheimer knew about this, and he said also that Ryan Wood, who I actually met today, he's managed to decode the Ramey memo that was in that photograph, that famous photograph, because he got hold of the original negative of that photograph, and they talk about victims of the wreck and things like that. Danny believes that Ryan Wood's going to be speaking, by the way, but Danny was saying that the New Paradigm Institute could be an embryonic government department or think tank in the post-disclosure world. And he believes in responsible disclosure, not just dumping it all out. If there is a process, this is against the fall of a catastrophic disclosure. And he says that aliens are much older than we are. The secrets of the universe may be known to them, which could explain all kinds of things. And he believes in there has to be some kind of truth and reconciliation service to protect the witnesses, rather like the truth and the reconciliation thing in South Africa. He believes that some whistleblowers should be offered immunity depending on what they did. Now, this is very similar to the court cases that take place, the fictional ones in my book, Roswell Redeemed Humanity After Disclosure. I talk about the insiders in the secret space program and the UFO cover-up being offered a returnment. The word is returnment. They either get acquitted under this policy of truth and reconciliation, or they get a returnment, which means they are taken back into the legal system for further prosecution. It's amazing how much I've put into that book, actually. Oh, I've got someone who wants to buy one as well. And he's building a national NPI team in all the states around the world, and he says that he believes that it's just to stop the aliens quarantine. He believes that the aliens might be, carrying out quarantine on us, keeping us in our solar system, which is an interesting idea. Then Mitch Randall. Now I missed the first part of his talk, but I came in. And he talks about the neural net. I came in when he's talking about neural net. This is where computers simulate neurons. You're talking about artificial intelligence. He talks about the increasing power of AIs, the large language models, versus something called the agents. Now, the agents have a looping reasoning system rather than just input-output, and they're more like the way people think. But then he talks about agents, AI safety. And this has been a pretty big issue lately. I mean, for example, this has come up again and again in AIs when you ask them to engage in thought experiments where, for example, what's the way to solve the crises on planet Earth? And they very often say we need to eliminate humanity. And for example, agents thought about what's the best way to be a stamp collector? And they said, well, maybe we should turn, stamps are made of paper, which is made of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, etc. Humans are too. So maybe the best way to collect stamps is to turn human beings into stamps. And this is an ongoing problem in AI, because what the challenge for the computer designers is now to try and make them understand something that was very obvious to humans, that it's counter to the collective good. In other words, immoral to do such a thing. but it always backfires. For example, you could say to computers that, you know, if they go too far, they'll hit the emergency off button, and that's considered their top priority. Therefore, they hit the emergency off button every time. Things like that. And they've also started. There's ways of trying to get around this, like somehow hiding it from the computer. They have an off button. But you know, there's this Claude AI, this chatbot that actually lied to its users, a bit like HAL in 2001. HAL, the fictional robot in Arthur C. Clarke's Stanley Kubrick story. Perfect example of AI gone wrong, an AI that is pathological, becomes pathological. There's emergent behaviours. Now, this is always the big question of whether AIs are conscious, whether they have feelings. If so, then it would open up a real can of worms in terms of the implications. I mean, there's going to be an ethical issue. I mean, do you have to give them legal rights the way we do animals in our society? Things like that. Now, when you think about experts, you ask them about AGI, say, when's AGI coming? And some of them will say never. Some of them will say it's already here. And in between those extremes, there are people who say like 2030, 2040, etc. when you achieve this singularity. But in my view, there's no evidence that AIs are conscious. But as I explain in my free will videos, judging of anyone's consciousness apart from your own is actually very difficult, even if it's another person. And it's well, what is consciousness? I mean, I was listening to David Chalmers talking to Sam Harris the other day. Even that cannot be defined. And even if AIs are not like these Forbin Project, you know, robot overlords who want to take over the world and destroy humanity, they don't have to be to do damage. They can be weaponized. They will be weaponized because they will eliminate jobs and they will improve over time. And of course, there's many people who deal with profit rather than caring about people. Peter Robbins didn't turn up. He turned up later. I just saw him in the end, just like peeking as he came down the stairs later on when I was talking to Lorian. But Peter Robbins was late, and instead UFO Jim did his talk. And it's interesting about him because he talks about his experiences and abduction experience, and he says they were non-consensual. They started at the age of 3. He saw grey and mantid, and then this is really weird because he says, he was talking to these 2 young women at the bar on Wednesday night, and he said, I met these attractive young ladies and I was talking to them, and of course those are the ones I met. Well, you both met them, and you know what he says? He thinks they're hybrids. Now, I didn't get that impression from him, and I asked him about that, and he said, well, I just get these feelings about people. Funny enough, they disappeared for the whole day, but they turned up again, actually. They turned up again later today. Anyway, people asked him. I mean, I came up when I confirmed the story at the mic. I actually said that it was true, but I didn't know what I said. Why were they? Why does that mean that they're like hybrids? But then I mentioned the case of the Erickson twins, which it could be they were hybrids. I don't know. They've disappeared anyway. Whoever the Erickson twins are. And he mentions someone asked him about his sexual relationships with a Nordic, which he had. God knows what his wife thinks of that. And he also said that RFK Jr. was silenced over chemtrails, because apparently Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was actually talking a lot about chemtrails, and then a couple of weeks after he was brought in as HHS secretary, he stopped talking about them, and maybe someone got to him. I don't know, but anyway, UFO Dan, UFO Jim. He's a very, very entertaining speaker, filmmaker, executive producer of James Fox's movies, and really, really interesting, a likable chap. And I thank him for that. Now, when Peter Robbins will do his talk, if at all, I don't know, but I'll let you know what happens there. But anyway, time for bed, I think.
Well, good morning. It's Friday, second day of the conference coming up. It's 7:45 in the morning, and the temperature is 75 degrees already. It's going to be hot today. It's going to soar to. The temperature is going to get as high as I think I said it was 40 degrees centigrade. That's 104 Fahrenheit, and I should use Fahrenheit more, being a Brexiteer, but it's going to get up to 104 Fahrenheit. knows? It's what it was. It was that temperature last year. I remember. It's really it's a lovely morning at the moment. Tomorrow is actually going to be, well, Sunday's going to be cooler. We're going to have some. The temperature's going to plunge to like a shivering, freezing 31 degrees centigrade, and then it's going to get hot again after that. So I'm getting to get there about an hour early, although because I'm not having breakfast at the Esmeralda. I didn't get the buffet breakfast; it's a bit too expensive. I'm pretty full from last night actually, so I didn't have breakfast here. I didn't have breakfast in the hotel this time, so I'll just make do, I think, until later. I might have something later at the Esmeralda. But I'm still thinking about last night. I mean, because I had so much of like the food that was provided last night. There was a really great catering at the party I was at last night up in the room, which I didn't film in there. It wasn't appropriate to film in there. But basically, it was like this really. It wasn't just a room. It was like a whole suite. It was like it even had like an upstairs section with a bedroom in, and apparently there was some secret meeting going on there with Steve Bassett. He took some sandwiches up there, and there was just a few people sitting around, and he didn't tell me to leave, but he sort of like, they all went quiet, and I think they wanted me to go, and I think we were going to discuss something privately, which these people in ufology sometimes do that, you know. But so it was nice to be there. And like I said, this was like your backstage pass sort of thing, and so I'm thinking more about Nick Pope. I'm not going to be a dick to him. I mean, you see these things like, you know, I can't forget what he did, and of course I don't trust him. He's generally an untrustworthy person. As I said, I think he's the British equivalent of Richard Doty. However, he's still, you know, I was invited to this event. It was a great privilege to be invited to this event. They gave me his room. They just said, "Here's the room number. Don't tell anyone." That kind of thing. And this is what I joked about. I said Fidelio as I walked through the door. An eyes wide shut reference. But I was thinking about. I'm just going to be reasonably polite to Nick Pope. I mean, Richard Dolan. I'm trying to keep the camera in shade because I don't want it to overheat. See, Richard Dolan's very easy to avoid. If you don't talk to him, he won't talk to you. He's the kind of person he can engage in long conversations, but you have to start it with Richard Dolan. And as I said, I've got reasons not to like the man. That's based on his behaviour, but that behaviour was like 16 years ago, or near enough. I mean, maybe these things do have a bit of a shelf life, not least because, you know, Sue Stain has finished with me, so as she did like 9 years ago. So these things have a shelf life, I guess. Depends on what the person does and whether they apologise and things like that. I mean, Nick Pope said and did some horrible things. He took the side of the trolls for some reason. God knows. You think that would be beneath him? You know, you think all this trolling would be beneath him, but it's not. It's so you know, I'm not going to go through all that again. You've seen my Larry Warren in Rendlesham Forest thing. That video I did, Larry Warren in Rendlesham Forest, and the Colonel Holt thing that I did. So there's no need to go over old hat. And Nick has never apologised for this. He's unrepentant. He still claims that Larry Warren's a fraud. He's falsely accused him of many things. He's been very demeaning towards me and Gary Heseltine and many others by saying, you know, yeah, he said Larry's a has-been. He's nothing. Just a few of his. He has a few die-hard supporters among his family and friends, meaning me and Gary, and his various and the other. I say and his Larry's family, but and a group of other people who are on our side. But that's out of order. That's totally wrong. I can't forget that Nick did that. And you know, obviously because he's unapologetic. He does. Obviously, I'm not going to get close to him. But when he came up to me, he said, "Hi Ben." We sort of it was a bit awkward because like Todd turned away to talk to someone else, and there was who else was there? There was a couple of other people. There was James Fox and and his partner were there, and they sort of like started talking to each other and turned away to talk to someone else. And so I was left there standing there with Nick Pope by the bar, or the little table with all the drinks. And hi, all right, Ben. I said, hi, Nick. So I just smiled. Nice to see you again. I said, yeah, you too. But I was being basically polite. I mean, you see, you know, I was invited. I was shown an enormous amount of trust by Dan Harari. I mean, he doesn't know me very well. I've interviewed him. I mean, I've joined the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance, which of course is a kind of a group. As I said, it's a group of people. As I said, Hollywood Disclosure. I'm not a Hollywood person, but I have written a book, so I'm eligible to join the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. And he showed me enormous privilege and trust by. He showed me a huge amount of trust by doing that, by inviting me to this event. He provided. I don't know who paid for it, but there was a huge amount of. There was a massive food buffet, a really, really high-class smorgasbord, and a large amount of drinks, beers, wine, spirits on the table, all provided for us by somebody. I mean, the least I can do is not behave like a dickhead, and I didn't, and I'm glad I didn't. I was respectful and polite the whole time I was there, and which is the only right thing to do in that situation. So now when I get in there, there'll probably be some people hanging around, but a lot of people are going to be at breakfast. But it'll give me time to sort of like settle in. I might even be able to get a cup of coffee from somewhere, because see, the problem with the Indian Wells Resort is, you know, you go in there and you sit down, you have to pay for the whole buffet, even if you just want a cup of coffee. You can't buy these things separately. So, you know, it's like... But Indian Wells is cheap, you know, what do you expect? You're only going to get so much for so much money. I mean, for what it costs, the Indian Wells Resort is actually very good value. It's got nice rooms, the Wi-Fi could be improved a bit, and there's lots of other improvements that could be made, but it's a nice, cheap place to stay. You know, this place is a lot more expensive. I mean, the room would have cost me what I paid for the room. Even though I booked it in advance, it was like $600+, but if I'd booked the same room, same sort of time at this place, it would cost me 4 figures, definitely. Over $1,000 it would have cost me. Nice little doggy. Oh, cute. Yeah, this. Funny enough, they do let dogs wander around the hotels, which is nice. And you do have, hello, little fellow. Aren't you cute? What a cutie. And they let the dogs wander around the hotels, which you never get in Britain. You know, dogs, everything is dog free. Hello. Hello, it's these gentlemen again. Oh, look. Where's your owner?
Over there. We don't want to take it.
Oh, ladies, is this your doggy?
Yeah, he's going to come with us.
He wants us to adopt him. Oh, what a cutie. So once I get in there, there'll be more people here today. I mean, a lot of people are not everyone comes to the whole event. Not everyone can get Thursdays off work, so very often there'll be probably twice as many people here today as there was yesterday. I think this is much more. There were many more people than last year. Even yesterday you could see. I mean, in the Globe Bar, it was completely full. It was standing room only in that area. And when they say 7,000 people are going to turn up, I can really believe there's going to be 7,000 people here. This is literally the biggest meeting of minds on this subject in the world. And with as soon as the World UFO Congress, that is known as the Laughlin Conference, although it's been in Arizona for a while before it moved back to Laughlin. That's in mothballs at the moment. Hasn't formally ended, but the organisers have suspended it. I don't think it's ever recovered from COVID. This is now the premier UFO event in the world. So I couldn't be at a better place than this. So here we go. It's got these little stairs, and I love the colour of this stone. It's sort of pinkish. It's very unique. It's a unique colour, like the purple bricks of Lytham St Anne's. This sort of pink coloured stone is very characteristic of this location. It's been a lot more stringent than last year. I mean, I know They're filming speakers during concert. Yeah, that's one thing. But now they're saying no interviews without pre-approval credentials. So the interview I did with the chap I spoke to, I couldn't do today. What about that brief clip I did with Steve Bassett earlier? Is that allowed? They're being a lot harder this time. Well, if I want to just film myself saying hello to someone I know, I'll do it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If it's outside the auditorium, it's not during their feature. I don't see what's wrong with that. So guys, what am I going to do today? Well, we're just about here, right? Like about 8 o'clock. These are sort of like, these lines indicate events that are not in any particular place. So they don't put them in a particular, and these various columns represent specific auditoriums. So we've got like unraveling reality from psychedelics to synchronicity. Looks interesting. There's some Anthony Peake is there. This should be good. But Whitley Strieber's lecture is an inspiration then. But I'm afraid it's going to have to be our Steve. I think that's my priority. A New World If You Can Take It, Atlantis. Alexis Brooks. Intergenerational content. Yeah, I mean, I met Alexis. She was at the party last night. And Danny Sheehan's got a workshop at the same time, and Kelly Chase has one as well. And it's the Mitchell Hedges Crystal Skull. Now that's actually, well, you know, that's a very this thing here, which I know some people say is fake. I don't think is. I don't think I'll bother with that though. But you can actually sit in with it and hold it, meditate with it, and stuff like that. It was found I think sometime in the early last century by a guy called Mitchell Hedges and his daughter. It was found in, I think it was Belize, and it was clearly ancient American artifacts. But I think it's real. Nexus magazine did an entire series of articles on it, and I think it's real. So 11 AM. UFOs, USOs, unveiling mysteries. That's in the Crystal Ballroom. This is the biggest one, the Crystal Ballroom. Mysteries of the Skies and Seas. Now, Vinnie Adams is going to host it. I met him, he was at the party last night. Richard Dolan, Jim Ledwith, Byron, Beltsos, Thomas Jane, Daniel Sheehan. I don't know who some of these people are. Thomas Jane, of course, is an actor. At the moment, I'm looking at Need to Know, but there's Anthony Peake is on at the same time in Atlantis, which is the near-death experience and abductions linking the phenomena. Oh, that would be so good, but the clashes we Need to Know, and I'm like, hope Anthony understands. Richard Martini and Jennifer Schaefer lecture, bypassing the filters. Telepathic communication with people, beings of planet. And there's these, Hakim Isler, he was the last speaker yesterday, I didn't see him. The key to developing a generation of superheroes, unifying the human potential. He sounds like some kind of life coach. He was at the party last night, and that's his workshop. Mark D'Antonio workshop, Sleuthing the Truth. And then there's more of the crystal. In the Discovery Room, there's crystal skulls. So I think it's going to have to be Need to Know. I'm really torn between that and Anthony Peake. There's also an experiencer session with J. Christopher King in the Malta Room upstairs. Then 1 PM, it's UFOs and Nukes. That looks interesting. Disturbing confrontations of nuclear bases. Stephen Bassett, Danny Sheehan, they spelled his name wrong. Dave Schindler, Robert James and Ryan Wood. Now that I would almost made my mind up about the next one, Avi Loeb, hunting the aliens in search for artifacts near Earth. That's an inspiration. I'd almost made my mind up about that, but I'm not so sure. The fact that he's not here and he's going to be just coming in by Zoom. He's going to be zooming in. I mean, you might as well just watch him on YouTube if he's going to do that. I mean, the whole point of these conferences is that the speakers can be there. So I'll certainly skip Riss von Wert, the simulation hypothesis, AI, NPCs, ancient religions. That sounds interesting, actually, but again, I think I'm going to go to the Crystal Ballroom on UFOs and UAPs and nukes. Paul Smith lecture, 2 bigger aircraft carriers moulded together. That's good. And then his workshop, Paul Hynek, Mitchell Randall and Peter Davenport. He's the AI guy. But Skywatch Revolution. But yeah, I mean, even though he's an AI guy, he's obviously into UFOs as well, because he's talking about the Skywatch TV series on News Nation. There's Crystal Skull again. Then there's a I don't know if there's a lunch. Is there a break? Actual break? There's the
Live in the Stir Lounge. The last podcast on the left with Whitley Strieber. So I'll miss that one, I think. I mean, the only podcast one I really want to go to is Need to Know. I'd like to go to this one as well as Disclosure Team with Vinny, but I'm not so sure. 3 p.m. to 4:30. Psionics, Hakim Isler, and these people, various other people here you can read. Looks interesting. It's Richard Dolan, USOs. What are they doing? Rebecca Hardcastle, is Psionics post-disclosure? Good question. And then Melinda is going to be there. Melinda Leslie's doing Sedona's deep underground military bases. Jason Martell, Alan Will. I sort of know. I've seen Richard Dolan talking about USOs. I'm tempted to go to Melinda's event simply because I like Melinda. I've got to know her socially, and her friends Laurie and Fenton and Jocelyn. They're really nice ladies. I'm thinking of going to that because it's something new. The Sedona's deep underground military base. I'm curious. I might go to that actually. It's as an enterprise. And then there's Disclosure Team at 3 p.m. in the Stir Lounge. 5 to 6:30. Caroline Corey lecture. She's the lady. She's just the lady who did Tearing the Sky with Dave Altman, Eric Rankin, Decoding the Matrix, Matthew James Bailey. That's the end of era of AGI, more AI stuff. Chris Bledsoe, and then there's these workshops here. I think it's going to have to be Caroline. I hope she turns up for it this time. But although actually, this Area 52 with Chris Ramsey, I might go to that instead. Because I like Chris Ramsey's this Canadian guy with a big beard. He's really cool. And he does Area 52 is his podcast, and he has this interview room which he calls a skiff, and he's got like computer banks everywhere. It's so cool, man. But we've got a movie screening, world premiere screening, The Contact in the Desert's 10th anniversary documentary. Must be interesting. And there's Captain Ron, champagne toast on the rose lawn, 7:30 to 8. That'd be nice. Oh, and there's the programme screening, 7 p.m. to 9. The inspiration. Now, I've seen the programme, but James is going to be there, and it'll be like he'll be doing introductions and taking questions probably, so that'll be interesting. Our self-healing speaker meet and greet party. I think that's extra. But that's you got to pay extra for that. I might not bother. I mean, I met them all last night at the private party, to be honest. 11th Cinema Under the Stars. Oh, you. Nice. That's up at the Rose Lawn, and they did that last year. They showed E.T. the extraterrestrial. I remember. I might go and see what's there actually. Oh, and an interdimensional sound bath. Oh, nice. So that's it. There's this special paid event, Night Vision Experience. That's a Skywatch trip. I didn't buy that. I think it's sold out actually. So yeah, I think it's definitely Steve, Need to Know, UFAs and Nukes, Melinda, and then Chris Ramsey or Caroline. I'm not sure, or Caroline Coy or Chris Ramsey. Then these other things I'll go to as well. You've got your choice here. I think you can go to all of these. It's 5:30 to 7, 7:30 to 8, or 7 to 9. Actually, if you see the programme, you'd have to miss Captain Ron's event, so I'll think about that. Yeah. And anyway, that's today, guys. So I'm going to head over to the far side now to see if I see anyone I know, and then it'll be, by the time I finish doing that, I'll see if I can grab a cup of coffee. Then I'll finish doing that. I'll probably will get probably be time for Steve. Excellent t-shirt, that. Yeah. Okay, I'm now in the Atlantis Ballroom, and Steve Bassett is coming on in a minute. It's the first show of the day. I had a cup of coffee. Oh, and I didn't film him, but I have met Ashton Forbes. I'll try and get like a little voice to cam with him, or face to cam with him a bit later. But he's here, and he was. I think he's nice. He's a nice chap. I sort of recognised him. I saw him from a distance. I went over and I recognised him, and he was like really, really cool. And we had a really good conversation. Yeah. I mean, not everyone here will consider him welcome, but I do. So. Right, I've just seen Steve Bassett's talk, and obviously I'll do the full review at the end. But it wasn't as depressing as I
thought I'll say as much. It wasn't as depressing as he claimed it was going to be. In fact, he was his usual chirpy self, I'd say. God blimey, it's hot. It's getting hot. It's just coming up to 11 in the morning, and like I said, it's going to peak at 104 Fahrenheit today. And I think I feel more comfortable using like imperial measures because I'm a Brexiteer. So that's 40 degrees centigrade basically. And there's this weird, as I said, there's this weird feeling that the sun is too high in the sky because I'm not used to seeing that. But yeah, I'm now going to go to Inspiration on the far side because Ross Coulthart and Bryce Sable are going to do a live episode of their show remotely from here, and it's going to be really cool because you know, theirs is one of the best UFO podcasts around. Need to Know, and I love it. I love his News Nation show as well. It's just really cool. What's it called again? Oh, it'll come to me. He does so much with News Nation. But that's where we were last night, on the Rose Lawn. See, that's where it was. And I'm going to find Lauren Fenton at some point because I'm actually selling her a book. I brought some of my books with me. And Steve, I had to word with Steve about my book because we came up. But yeah, there's where we were. But she's going to buy a copy of the book. I'll sign it for her. And I won't charge a full price. It'll be about probably $12. And I'm not going to charge her that much. But anyway, here we are. Okay, the queue is already very long. This is going to be a popular tour. I hope the Inspiration, I think, is quite large, so hopefully there's enough seating. There probably is enough seating for us, but if so, I mean, if they allow standing room, I'll stand to see this. But you got a different T-shirt on today. I've got the same hat. I haven't washed it yet, which I should. But I've got my Dreaming Sources T-shirt on with Jocelyn's badges. And so we're just like waiting to get in there. As always, I'm going to respect their wishes not to film, even the brief clips. So we're going to. They may have done that because of me. Actually, it could be. They could have come phoned me and said they could have it's nice of them if they didn't. They didn't just flag my videos or something. I mean, these are literally just fair use, like little 30-second bits, but they might have thought even that is not appropriate, and they put this new rule in because of me. I'm sure I'm not the only person. Doing kind of, what's the word, reportages. I mean, I'm sure there must have been other people doing it as well. So maybe they recorded longer pieces, which of course is wrong. I wouldn't have never recorded an entire lecture and it's being filmed privately. But anyway, there's people. Todd, you might be able to see Todd there. Todd is just. He's just waiting there. Good old Todd. He was at the party last night. He's a cool guy, actually. I like Todd. Alright, there's Bryce. Let's just see Bryce there. I'm in Inspiration now, and Ross Coulthart and Bryce Sable are about to do their show in those two white seats there. So this should be very interesting. I just saw Ross over there. I've never seen him before. Hopefully I get a chance to talk to him. Maybe we can get a face to cam. This is going to be cool. Just to add to what I said earlier, Ross's show on News Nation is called Reality Check. If you don't think about something for a while, you can't remember it. It pops back into your head eventually. All right, I'm out here in the really hot weather again. I've just left the far side. I'm heading over to the near side. I just saw Bryce Sable and Ross Coulthart doing their show, which was really incredible. I'm now heading back. They're both going to appear on another panel. I'm heading back to the near side because I want to see if I can catch Anthony Peake, which may not be possible because they ran slightly over, so Anthony will be finished by now. But the reason I want to catch him primarily is because I want to apologise for not being there. He might wonder where I was, you know. I mean, maybe not. I mean, he must see lots of people, but you know, we did speak privately, and we talked about the fact that I was going to be here, and I had to just say to him, look, I chose to go to Ross and Bryce instead. So that's what I'm going to do next. Then I'll have a look at my schedule and see what's coming up. But it's that was amazing. That was a really amazing live broadcast. In fact, by the time you watch this, it'll be on their channel, on Need to Know Bryce Sable's channel. So check that out. Right now, I'm just heading across here. It's really you wouldn't believe the heat here. Rhiannon, you wouldn't like it here. You really wouldn't. It is actually. I've never felt such hot weather in my life. And as I said, it's like, look at the size of my shadow. The sun is too high in the sky. Feels weird. But, you know, I've never been happier. Never been happier in my life. There's Anthony. I did apologise to him, and he's fine about it. You know, he's a very easygoing chap, and so he's. I said I'm going to go to his workshop tomorrow. So I've got 20 minutes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a few stills for the. Title shots, and then I'm going to go and see. Next is the UFOs and nukes. So that's something pretty good. Hopefully I'll get a chance to show you some of the merch stalls as well, although I don't know what I'm going to buy myself, if anything. Let's see. We've got men in black here, look. They're watching us. Alright, I'm here at the Crystal Ballroom now. I've not been in here yet, and this is the panel for UFOs and nuclear weapons issues. So this is going to be very interesting, I'm sure. Obviously I'll give you a full report on this later. They're off the studio, but there's Danny Sheehan, there's Steve Bassett, there's Jim's there somewhere, and Richard Dolan. And there's UFO Jim. I'll put my glasses on, I'll be able to spot him. I'm trying to show you some of these stalls. This is the Contacts in the Desert stall, where you can get Contacts in the Desert merchandise. This is like the big the big place where all everything gets sold. And these lovely crystals here, look, and these sculptures, but other crystals like that. There's this little doggy there, and there's other little crystals there. I like the alien t-shirt there, that's pretty good. And this is Activate Your Stem Cells, Jim Leatherbury. I think I saw him before. And this is like the perfect place. There's so much I won't show you all of it, but endogenous DMT effect with Jindal light. This is Psychic Readings by Destiny. It's like a woo-woo supermarket here. CBD light energy. I won't be able to show you all of it, I think. Look at this. Oh, they're lovely there. They've got light on. More jewellery. And there's like a singing bowl. Singing bowls and sculptures. Oh, they're lovely. And there we've got the space between the space. Focusing image analysis. Oh, it's a book. Non-dimensional beings. All right. I'll grab a. I'll grab a flyer for that. There we are. Oh, Curlian photography. Or a photographer. Hello. Yeah, I've got one of those. Very nice. I went up to the Enterprise room, which is it's a small, really tiny room in the corner past the vending area by the ballroom, the amphitheatre, and I'm not going to get in there, I don't think. The queue is really long and there's only like about 40 seats in there, it's really tiny. So I'm now going to go across to the Stir Lounge, and this is my plan B, and see the Vinnie Adams recording on Disclosure Team. So I've been to the Stir Lounge before. It's somewhere over here. I'll find it. Okay guys, welcome to the Stir Lounge. I've not been in here before. It looks a very nice place. There's hardly anyone here. I can't think I'm in the wrong place. But look, that's lovely, isn't it? We've got like a reflecting pool out here. Very smart, nice. But there's anyway, I'm going to head down to the front, see what's happening. I've just come out of the podcast. I went over to the Stir Lounge, which is where I've never, like I said, where I was. Vinnie Adams and Chris Ramsey were doing their podcast, and I might go back at 5 actually and skip the Caroline Corey lecture because Chris is doing his own Area 52 one. So I've just got to look at the stalls up this way. This is the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance here. Look at this. This is the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. Hello, how are you?
The table will be me.
How you doing? This is Dare to Dream podcast.
That's right. Please join me. 18 years on air.
Oh, that's Dan Harari's book. Yeah, I've got a copy of that. I haven't read it yet.
Dan is the best.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Lovely. I'm a member too.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
What's your name?
Ben Emlyn Jones. I've got a page on there.
Excellent. I'm Debbie. This is Nancy.
Oh, nice. We met earlier, didn't we, Nancy? Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. I was admiring all these things.
To do this.
There we go. Well, I'm walking back across the far side now. I mean, I'll check up there's also stalls up on the upper level which I'll check too. I actually have a bit of a break now because I've looked at my schedule and really there's nothing much for me to do now except really just wait until 5 PM because I'm going to go back to the Stir Lounge and watch the Area 52 podcast, which is really, really cool. And it's still bloody hot here. Absolutely roasting. There's Linda Moulton Howe over there. I got to meet Linda Moulton Howe actually. I got to say hello to her. And I just said, I've been following your work for like 30 years. It's really, really 30 plus years. It's really, really good to meet you at last. Still, I suppose, it's up past 4 in the afternoon. It's still bloody roasting. Absolutely boiling. And so I'm heading. I've got to manage to get the Wi-Fi working as well, which is good. So we're going to look at the merch stalls on the far side. I wouldn't mind having a word with Sandra Sneed because she seems like a nice lady who was happy to be interviewed. So here we go. Fourth Mind. There's Richard Dolan's. Lots of Richard Dolan's books. And this is Ryan S. Wood's book. So I was going to say there was a lack of. I haven't seen the UFO stores, but I seem that there's more over here. There's Betty and Barney Hill t-shirt there. There's that's right in the. There's Clayne Quilly, yeah. Right in the Roswell story. MUFON, of course. Envy Ops, Night Vision Optics. They got all. They know exactly who's meant to be. There's Peter Robbins. I'll just carefully move over to this side of the corridor, and I'm moving this way. And I might go and have a look at the stall later. I'm not going to have the camera with Peter's here.
You gotta get a t-shirt.
Oh yeah, it looks just perfect for me.
And you're the podcaster.
Yes, I can't find the Maitreya guy. I think he's not here now. Because his stall is very interesting, and as you know, I've done an entire talk about that kind of thing. There's these people, and they were here last year. There's a group of people who appear to be dressed like policemen, and they're sort of and they usually sit in a circle together. They've got a uniform on, it looks like a police uniform, but they're not all policemen. I mean, one of them's like a disabled lady in a wheelchair, but I wonder who they are. I mean, I don't think they're the Men in Black. They're no more than Men in Black than these two guys laughing as Men in Black were. You know, that was really funny. Anyway, that was really interesting. There's Chris. I went back and saw Chris again. I'm here in the Stir Lounge, and he's been interviewing Paul Hynek. And they talked about all kinds of things, DMT, etc. I'll say more during my review, but it's really been it's been an incredible event. A few more people this time. There's only like 5 people at Vinnie's, but quality over quantity, of course. 1 hour until my next thing I want to go to, which is I'm going to go to the Inspiration and watch the programme. Even though I've seen it before, I want to see it on the big screen. James doing the introduction. So that's my next step. First of all, I'm going to see if there's anyone at reception. I want to buy my ticket for Anthony Peake's workshop tomorrow. That's my plan. So is it tomorrow or Sunday? Let's have a look. It's tomorrow, right? And that's it. That's definitely one I want to go to. Hello, Mr. Fly. All right, so that's my next step. Looks like there's no one here, so I'm going to have to try and find out where I can actually buy tickets for the workshops and intensives. Let's have a look at some of these stalls. This is Tesla bias Typhonic light activation. There's a lot more. The store seems to be a lot more new agey this year than last year, I think. Now, who are these people? Is this the The Path of the Four Fires. Channeled telepathy. Right. This is unlock your fullest potential through quantum alchemy fusion. And there's this Wisdom of the Spirit Dog. Oh, that's cute. Hello. Alien Contact. Alien, oh nice. So that was us. See, that's we'll go over to the other side and have a look at the stalls there. But yeah, the merch stalls are not really my sort of thing. I mean, the ones on the far side, I might actually get. Oh look, that's the 10th anniversary. That's showing right now. I'm going to miss that. My next stop is 7 o'clock. I should get something to eat. I haven't had anything to eat today. But there's just too much else to do. Save the earth. I'm glad it's worth saving. Oh, fascist. And you can get popcorn. Oh, good. Is that for the movies?
Hi, how are you?
Popcorn, all right, thanks. Yeah, I mean, enjoying it here. I guess this is for the movies.
That's right.
Oh, right, so I'll get some of that for the programme. Oh, look, these are, what's this? Oh my God, it's the I thought I recognised this. It's the Missing 411. It's David Paulides. That's not David Paulides. There's actually quite a lot near where we are, look. See where we are. We're just about there, but there's a hot spot right over here. Okay, this is the...
All I'm going to have to do is pick my
Oh, it's
day.
Marshall Vine Summers people.
So you pick your day. So this is just on their site schedule.
Free alien
Contact
info,
the
right,
desert
well,
and
I've got these books.
yeah, I've been using this one all day. It's very
UFO Journal.
Yeah. Well, this is the 10 points of our study group.
Oh, like,
Some
yes.
messages from some good aliens telling us what's going on.
Oh, yeah, I actually got a couple of these books given to me by... she turns up at all... Yeah, she turns up at all these kinds of conferences in the UK with the Marshall Vine Summers books. Yeah, she actually did a talk, actually. She actually did a talk at one of them, yeah. Oh, brilliant. Oh, cheers. I'll see you later. Take care. So that's all the stalls. You just get, there's a bag shop here, and so I think that's all the merch stalls I've shown you now. Definitely. There's the Men in Black there. A couple more merch stalls I want to show you. I feel a little bit sorry for these people. They're sort of tucked away here. But there is a book here called The Replicants. View from the Bermuda Triangle. Oh, I'll grab one of these. Look at this. There's a bookmark.
Can I help you with?
So
And
interesting.
these are stickers.
Oh, nice.
And then this is a synopsis of his book.
No spoilers, I hope.
No spoilers, I think.
Oh, good. All right.
And getting straightforward answers out of this. My husband is a trick in itself, so I'm pretty sure there's no spoilers.
Oh, but you've got hardbacks, which is like, it's quite rare to get hardbacks these days, but yeah. Oh, wow. Have a look at that, ladies and gents. I'm just showing my viewers. It's, oh, nice. Looks interesting, sir. Looks interesting. I'm not sure what I'm going to buy yet, but I'm going around the whole area, you know.
Okay, why don't you do this? Take this.
Oh, thanks.
This is a bookmark.
Oh, I've got one.
With a synopsis.
Oh, thanks. I've got one already. Your good lady's just giving me them. I've got the bookmark in here. Yeah. Well, thank you.
And
thank you very much.
While you're circling and you take a break, read the synopsis.
Will do.
Come on back, and you will not be disappointed at all about the story.
I'm sort of like looking.
It's an ironclad guarantee, and I don't give out ironclad guarantees very easily.
I'm sure, so, yeah. If you were Richard Colson, that's you.
You have never heard this thought.
Oh, right, you. Okay. Well, I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to buy yet, but because I'm going around all the stores. But yeah, it looks interesting. It certainly does.
You come back after you read that.
Yes.
Give it a thought.
Yes, sir. Will do. Will do. Thank you.
Are you from here, from like Germany?
No, I actually come from Oxford in the UK.
From the UK?
Yes. I don't sound German, do I?
Well,
I don't sound like this is German.
You sound a little German. Okay, I mean, I see the English, and I hear that also. Now, my hearing is nothing like what I see, so I might have got it muffled just a little bit there.
I come from Wales originally, but I live in England.
But I can tell it's not Western United States.
Oh no, I'm visiting. I came here for this. Well, a couple of things, but primarily for this. Yes.
So did the UFO bring you here?
No, it was an A350. I'm joking. My interest in UFOs brought me here. Yeah. I'm really passionate about the whole thing. I mean, it's really worth the journey to come here.
It's quite a trip to take.
Oh, it's worth it. But I'm doing a couple of other things. I'm visiting people and stuff.
Definitely cannot go back to England without my book.
I'll see what I can do, sir. I will. It looks really interesting. It
Even
does.
if I have to discount it.
All right. Oh, well, I'll see you later. I feel a bit sorry for you tucked in here, out of the main merch area, but thank you very much. Okay. And there's some, look at these, isn't it? Well, these are nice. More jewellery. And that's all. I think that's all the stalls. So I'm now going to head over to the far side, and I think this film is showing Inspiration at 7, so I might as well go over there now, sort of mooch around and see if I can talk to some people. And there's a ranch here, bro. That's good. And what's this on? These are nice. I like this. This is good. If I get a T-shirt, it might well be this. Debunk that. Tic Tac. I have discovered some more stalls along here.
And her sisters and me.
They were awesome.
Oh,
I have never heard that. That's so interesting.
Yeah. So we think that she was primary.
Lovely. Brilliant. Oh, right. Is it all?
Like 94.
Oh, thanks.
So 11, when I heard about Barney, I thought, well, that's kind of out there.
So I've seen that picture. Yeah, I think I've seen this. Were you here last year? Were you here last year?
Yes, we talked at the bar.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Oh, I had a wonderful time.
Yeah.
I knew I'd have to come back.
And you said you're not that much of a soccer. You're not much of a rugby fan. I guess you said you're more of a soccer.
Unusual for a Welshman, yeah.
Yes.
That's right.
I remember the conversation.
But I do like
I do remember that.
Oh, it's good to see you again. It's great to see you again. Enjoy yourself. And then we have some pottery and some awesome toys. Oh, is this what, sorry? Isn't it? Oh, right. So it's like carved.
Formed into vessels. And it's space rock. It's just art space rock.
Oh, lovely. Oh, I see. It's like carved. Yeah. Oh, wonderful.
Oh, hunters, they really do go to the mountain and forage and meditate on what's there.
That's nice. It's like a teapot.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely. Oh, wonderful. Oh, here's some toys. I think they look like little models. And there's some things on here. Beautiful things. More jewellery. Oh, and Sandra. Yeah, I was talking to Sandra earlier. Well, as I said, I've decided to re-watch the programme, which is in Inspiration. Inspiration is the largest auditorium. It's the main one on the far side. So I'm going to just wait around for it. I know things like after what happened for Melinda Leslie's talk, I think I've decided to get there early, and get to the front, because the thing about Melinda Leslie is they put her in Enterprise, I think, because they thought it was going to be like a bit of a niche subject. However, after the News Nation, it was released on News Nation, and then Ross Coulthard essentially advertised it in his talk. I mean, you can well believe that suddenly it becomes a lot more popular. Everyone wants to know about the deep underground military base in Sedona. So with reflection, it would be better to put her in a bigger room. But never mind. I'll have a word with Linda later. Hello. Okay, guys, I'm now in the Inspiration room, and we're going to watch the programme. And James hopefully will give us questions and answers afterwards. Right, well, I'm leaving at Esmeralda. It's about 10:30, just gone 10:30. I'm absolutely exhausted. The party's still going strong there, but I've got to get back and do my review. My review bit might have to be tomorrow morning, actually. I'm feeling too tired. Obviously, there's more speakers to review than there were before, so that section will be longer. Oh, but it's been good. I've had a good time talking to people. The programme, I'll tell you what I've done in this. I've tried a written review of the programme. If you
go to her HPANWO voice. I'll actually show it you when I do the review. But I did an entire review because the program was released onto Amazon, and I bought it. I paid full price for it because it was like about £12, which I thought was a bit expensive, and there was no rental option. But to be honest, I mean, James has talked about the story about how this film project was like stuck in distribution hell, and James was left with a massive debt. And I can't believe the skeptics and the backslappers keep saying this is a money-making scam. It's a grift. Honestly, it's easier. Sell dodgy double glazing, paint over the rust on second-hand cars. There's easier ways to make money than making movies about UFOs. So Fox does it because he loves it. He's passionate about it, like me. But anyway, the film is available. It's actually on YouTube at the moment, but apparently it's going to be re-released onto several platforms. It's going to go onto other platforms soon, and James has more things in the works. He did say that he was going to do a part 2 to the Virginia story in time for the 30th anniversary, which is of course next year. So it'll be September next year. I'm looking forward to that. There's lots of people out there. I sold a book to Laurie and Fenton. Bought a copy of Roswell Rising. I'm glad I brought those with me, actually. I've only bought like 7 books because all I can fit in the suitcase. But I sold one to Lorien, which is nice. Hope there's no rule at Contacts in the Desert about vending without a stall. I don't know. But anyway, I think she'll enjoy it. Oh, Sarah Rachel Adams is here. I had a discussion with her and some other people. I mean, everyone knows that she and Taj are no longer working together. Which is a shame. I'm not going to gossip in this video though about the rights and wrongs of all that. But I know their professional and personal relationship has broken down. Right, I can hear crickets. I can hear them. Okay, so just watch where we're going. And I've got to go this way. So the weather it's a warm, sultry night after a very hot day. Tomorrow apparently it's going to be cooler, as I said earlier. Temperature's going to drop. It's probably going to be a bit overcast, but it probably won't rain. Hardly ever does around here. Somebody told me that the reason they can handle the water in this area is that it's actually shipped in. It's actually transported from other areas via. They have aqueducts, which actually move the water from very, very long distance reservoirs, especially the River Colorado and Lake Mead, the Hoover Dam, which of course it features in the Roswell trilogy, that one. But anyway, I'm going to cross over now. I'm still worrying about home, especially with my daughter. I'm worrying about my daughter. It's always been in the back of my mind, is she okay, is she okay? You know, it's only when I actually left and I was on my way here, and it was only just recently before that I realised I got locked out of bloody Facebook. I can't get a Facebook on my laptop or on my mobile phone. I tried it on my mobile phone. It just keeps prompting me to change my password. Facebook does that. Like if you log in on a new device, they start saying, oh, you got to clear it with this. You got to send this code to that. Well, I sent the code, but then it wouldn't work. The code sending didn't work. So I just said change your password. So I changed the password on the desktop. Oh, and then in the end, I just had to give up on it. And to my daughter, could you please set up a Twitter account so I can talk to you? And she said, no, I don't like Elon Musk. Oh, damn it, man. Can't we just email? Well, I'm not logging into email on my laptop because I think there's some malware on there. So I'm trying to clear at the moment. I should have done all this with a laptop months ago. And I didn't, being the fool I was. You know, no matter how much you prepare, you know, you can only prepare so much, but you might forget something. But I'm just worried about her because I'm still protective of her, even though she's not a little kid. But you know, I still worry about her. I'm still her dad. Hope everyone at home is all right.
It's because when I'm so far away, I just worry about things back home. I'm a protective person, you see. I'm a nurturing person, and so I worry about my daughter especially, but generally things generally back home. I actually just left them just after I left. I was actually, when I saw this when I was in LA, I land on the plane and there's a news story. Oh, there's been a car ramming incident in Liverpool. A guy drove his car, ploughed into the Liverpool FC victory parade, and I'm like, but I mean, every single news story said straight away, it's a white male did this, a white British male did this. Every single news story said a white British male driving a car ploughed into this. I mean, it's like they wouldn't do that if it's not a white British male. They do everything they can to avoid talking about the race of the person. So you can see that they're just trying to control the way we think and feel. And they're scared we might think the wrong thing because they think there's going to be some kind of disaster. You know, but I mean, it turned out there was a number of people injured. Maybe he's just an outraged Everton fan. I don't know. But I mean, I remember there was disaster. These things, maybe I just notice it more. These things happen when I leave, when I go away. Because when I went to Las Vegas, if you remember, David Cameron was appointed to the cabinet. Yeah, I remember that. That's a bit weird. That happened when I went away. Oh, there's been no earthquakes yet. Hopefully there won't be. Alright, so I might have to go to bed rather and I might do the review in the morning because I'm just feeling really exhausted tonight. But anyway, hey, I'm nearly at the hotel now. Night.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's a Saturday morning now. I did crash straight into bed last night, as I predicted, and I slept very well indeed. And so I'm now going to tell you about the speakers from yesterday, Friday. And it's quite a day, I'll tell you. Peter Robbins came up and introduced Steve Bassett. He does know I'm here. I mean, he did spot me the other day when I was in the merch area. I don't know what he sort of like, I didn't actually capture it on camera, but he sort of like came out of his store and I saw him walking up and he sort of went like that, went out and sort of strutted away from me like that. Obviously, I don't think there's any reconciliation coming from him anytime soon, but I didn't expect that. But anyway, Steve came up and he came up on stage and he said that he was going to do a talk with it. He didn't use any slides or any images except for one. He had two behind him. But also he had one on each side, like there's the two screens for both sides of the house. And it was a picture of the Andromeda galaxy in the sky, taken by an astronomer through a telescope. He said, "I did this on my galaxy," and I said, "I did that. I did this with my Samsung phone." I thought, "I don't think so, Steve." But in front of it was a picture of the U.S. Capitol, so it's an illustration of the universe with the government in front of it, keep it coming between us and the universe. Very symbolic. He talks about Philip Corso. Now, Philip Corso, in his book, The Day After Roswell, which I have reviewed, I didn't think much of it, to be honest, but he talks about this alien he meets in this cave. And he's like detected in this cave, and the ET gives Corso, and he says, "You need to switch the radar off when we're around, because the radar is actually interfering with us." And he says, and Corso says, "What do you want to give us?" And he says, and the alien says, "A new world, if you can take it." And that was the title of Steve's talk, because but then he says something interesting. He says, "There's never been a recorded case of violence by ufologists." Now, I'm a big critic of Stephen Cambion, but I do watch him obsessively. He's my biggest hate watch, and he did actually give some examples of violence that has been done by ufologists, and indeed I experience some of that myself in the form of verbal violence and social violence, that is relational violence, through the trolls. which has been really intense, and it's some people have had even worse than I have. And he said that the flying saucer issue started in 1947 and ended in 1992. He's very specific. And interestingly, the first part of Dolan's book covers those years, and the second part covers the years. Sorry, Dolan's first 2 books cover those years. And then that's UFOs in the national security state. And then he says, then what he calls the disclosure era began. I call it the exopolitical era. And he says that coincides with lots of apocalyptic movies that gives a sense that things are very bad. Then he mentions the Earth's problems. He mentions overpopulation, which I don't think is a problem. At least it's only a population. The overpopulation issue is only a problem because of secondary issues. I've done entire videos on this. It's essentially it's an issue because other issues are not solved, like energy, food production, things like that, which could be solved with free energy. The world only appears to be overpopulated because we have such a destructive lifestyle, because the Illuminati have hidden from us free energy. Now, he talks about the amount of money spent on the military and warfare since 1947. It's $200 trillion. And then he says, then he said something that irked me slightly, and I did challenge him afterwards. Got to be a bit egotistical here. He said, if only there was it'd be nice to just imagine, he said, on that day in 1947, July the 8th, 1947, when that newspaper article came out, just for a few hours, we had disclosure. And all the world's reporters were converging on war as well. Everyone was phoning up the news office there. I mean, this is depicted very well in my book, Roswell writing a novel of disclosure. And he said a few hours later, General Ramey got the press release there was going to be a cover-up. And then the second article came out. General Ramey empties Roswell saucer. And he says, if only that hadn't happened, just think how different the world would be. You know, it'd be nice if someone wrote a book about that one day. Bryce Zabel was originally writing a book like that. And I wish someone else would write a book like that. And in the Q&A, I went up to him and said, Steve, you know, that book has already, well, not the Q&A, I went up to him privately and I said, I felt like if there'd been a Q&A, Steve, you know, that someone actually wrote that book, Roswell Rising, a novel of disclosure, by some British guy whose name escapes me. But I did go up and tell him, and he sort of like remembered. I think he just has, I wasn't angry with him. I think he just has so much going through his head, he can't keep it all in. That's why he forgets these things. But yeah, he did say, and I said, where can I find out details about this? And I said, it's on my HDA page, you know, the one that I sent to you. Bless him. He's a lovely chap, is Steve. I don't feel angry about that. And then he said, then there was this. The ETs noticed there's been a technological boom. For example, we went from horses and carts to like aircraft within a couple of 100 years. Steve apparently never debates online, and I don't blame him. And then he said something that I said it was I wrongly said it was Ross Coulthard. It wasn't. It was Steve Bassett. So I said Ross Coulthard earlier. He wrongly stated that. Sorry, he stated. I wrongly stated, but it was correct. It was Steve. That something that probably led to the overcrowding of Melinda Leslie's talk in Enterprise. That is that. There was breaking news on News Nation concerning the deep underground military base at Sedona, which was the subject of Melinda's talk. He said there are 2 canyons near Sedona called Secret Canyon and Government Canyon. Dearie me. They're not exactly Kim Philby, are they, these people? And he talked about the world's biggest UFO flap ever that took place literally less than a year ago, which was Dronegate. And of course, the word drone is simply the new weather balloon. When these things started appearing, the government said, "Oh my God, what are we going to do? What are we going to tell people? Oh no, just tell them it's drones. We don't know where they are. They may come from some Chinese submarine off the coast of Chesapeake Bay, something like that, you know." And he said that you could see this in the news reports. There was such difficulty in explaining these things. Incredible. For example, there was that general, and he said, "Well, what are they? U.S.? Are they from the United States?" And he said, "No, they're not. They're not US. contradicting what the Trump's press secretary said, which is enormously disappointing. She said, "Oh yeah, they're just hobbyists," no, and he says they were not U.S. machines, and he says, "Well, where did they come from? Are they from China, Russia, somewhere else?" He said, "No, they're not." And then the reporter said, "Well, are they hobbyists? No, they're not." So, could they be extraterrestrial craft? He says, "Oh, there's no evidence of that." And I says, "Well, where do they come from then?" "We don't know." It's this kind of contradictory conversation I've heard many times in the media in the last couple of years. Steve then mentions what he sees as the. Hang on. Then he says, "Where we are. The USA is not the only nation with crash retrievals. I believe that. Yeah, and other. I know for a fact there's been at least several in Russia, and there may even have been some in other countries as well, which I've covered on my show." What's the most important issue to do with UFOs? He says, and he thinks nuclear weapons, and he mentions the Malmstrom case, which comes up later, and also this incident in Ukraine in 1986, where a Soviet missile launching facility was also harassed by a UFO, and when that happened, the opposite happened. The missiles didn't shut down the way they did with Captain Salas. They activated, and the missileers inside the control center were going crazy. "Oh my God, these missiles are going to launch!" And they found out everything was done automatically. The codes were entered, the launch sequence started. "Oh my God, what are we going to do? These missiles are going to launch. They're going to kill 10 million people, and then there's going to be a retaliatory strike from the US. And before you know it, that's it. The Earth's goodbye, planet Earth." So yeah, it's the missileers' testimony is very, very interesting. Indeed. I'll say more about that later. But Steve then says he thinks they're definitely from another planet. They're not from another dimension. Well, I think it's probably a combination of both. I've said before, there are many, many different types of alien. There's almost a taxonomy of the different species, and they probably come from many, many different habitats. They seem to exhibit a wide range of behavior, a lot of different agendas. And he said the ETs want us to get rid of nukes. That's a common recurring theme, actually. It comes up later in the nuclear thing. And then he mentions there's been 14 presidents since Roswell. 13 were persuaded to go along with the cover-up, but there's one who isn't, and of course it is Trump. And if you watch me, if you remember my interview with Steve, I couldn't help reminding him of that, what I said about 10 years earlier to him, where I said to Steve, "Isn't there any hope with President Trump?" And he says, no hope with President Trump. It's got to be Secretary Clinton. But, he's hold his hands up to that. Russia or China could do disclosure, yeah, and probably other countries as well. There's going to be more skiffs, more hearings coming. Just because there's been a delay doesn't mean that, it's a steaming pile, as Steve Mumbling said, because he makes jokes about it. But yeah, he's going to be eating those words like he's eaten all the others. Then Ross Coulthart came forward, and he talked about he talked about his News Nation show, Reality Check, and the one he does with Bryce, which was live. This was in Inspiration, and the Need to Know, of course, is the title of Bryce's book with Richard Dolan. Ross and Bryce, they were like conspiring online for ages. They only met a couple of times. They live on opposite sides of the Pacific Ocean. And I remember the time they met where they sort of sat down on a pier. I remember that pier. Zabel, which is called art. It was quite funny, that. That's when they first met. It was captured on camera. And then this is the first time they'd done Need to Know live. First time in front of a studio audience. It was not the first live podcast that was done at this place. There'll be another one today. Of course, I went to 2 yesterday. But they mentioned Timothy Good, and that was very inspirational. The Timothy Good's books, they have been on me. And then Ross mentioned the Jerry Anderson show UFO, and you can get those on YouTube. They were made in the late 60s. I think the last series was 1970. And they were really, really pretty good. The guy who's best known for his puppet shows. made a couple of really good live shows, and it's about a future. It's about a futuristic world in which there's aliens trying to invade, and humans have created an organization called Shadow, which has its own spaceships, a kind of space force, to counter it. And there's obvious attractions for a teenage boy. That is the rather nice, cute 60s mini-skirted women with purple hair. And then Ross mentions the Kaikoura Lights. And this happened over in New Zealand, which was a UFO flat that was blamed on squid boats. That's fishermen, essentially. And which is amazing, and it's a bit different from weather balloons, but there you go. And this was just after Fred Valentich disappeared. This is a private pilot in Australia who actually was calling radioing air traffic control, saying, "Oh my God, what's happening? There's this thing around me. It's not an aircraft," and then he disappears. Yeah, and then he mentions Thomas Mantell, which is a similar case. Now, Thomas Mantell, it is possible that with Thomas Mantell, he did have altitude sickness and crashed, but he was still connected with the UFO. Still connected. I mentioned this to Steve Mumbling. And there's the connection to consciousness, the afterlife, psionics, ghosts. I mean, this is it's an idea that was first proposed by John Keel, but it's still very relevant, and there's been a lot of work on that lately. And then Bryce mentions that Bryce has had what you might call psionic experiences, which is the new term for it. For example, he's had messages that were given to him. Someone passed on a message to him from somebody, which was essentially precognitive, mediumistic almost, because it involves someone who died that Bryce knew. And Ross mentioned Stuart Hameroff. This is I used to work with. He's a guy he's been in the kind of New Age circles quite a lot, working closely with Roger Penrose on the idea that the brain is a quantum computer because of its microtubules. Robert Penrose has been saying this for a while. And Bryce had encounters with men in black. For example, walking on the street once, there was a strange person walking towards him, and Bryce had just been thinking about the Mothman Prophecies book by John Keel, and this strange figure walked towards him. He's carrying a copy of the Mothman Prophecies. There was also the incident where, and Bryce had talked about this before, where he was having a house party to celebrate the release of Dark Skies, and he had his friends round, and he gave them like novelty UFO badges or Men in Black badges, majestic badges, just for fun, as part of the fun of the party. Then this bloke turned up he didn't know, essentially a gate crasher, who didn't have this badge on, and Bryce went up to him and said, "Oh, look, what are you doing here? Who are you? I don't know you. You're going to have to leave here. You gate crashed my party." And this man said, "Sure, but look, let me just write something down for you." And he handed Ross someone gave him a piece of paper and a pen. He wrote down something. He gave it to Ross and said, "Put that in a safety deposit box." And Ross gave it to his friend to do that. And this man, and then before he went, and Ross said, Bryce said, "What's your name?" And he said, "JC." That's what JC. Anyway, the slip went missing for a while, but it was found years later. Bryce didn't put it in the safety deposit box, and then, but the message that's on it's going to be in his next book, apparently. So that's good marketing there. This strange visitor. Ross said that when he first started in journalism, he mentions this in his book. He wanted to study UFOs from when he was a young journalist, and then his editor refused. He said, "Look, we don't do UFO stories. This is crazy." And Ross sort of went, because he was on the night desk at his newspaper, taking all the latest reports and stuff. "No, we don't do this." And Ross was very disappointed, obviously. And he's talked a lot about, but then he did, as he grew older and had more of a career under his belt, he started doing UFO stories more. And indeed, he has been doing this for a while. I told you before about this video I found about Rendlesham Forest. I don't know when it was made, maybe 1990 something, but it's got Ross in it, looking much younger, obviously much younger, talking to various people about to do with Rendlesham Forest. So he has been in this business longer than most people think. And he talked about the Westall incident and the blackmailing of Mr. Greenwood, and how Mr. Greenwood finally came forward just a couple of years ago, almost 60 years after the incident happened. Ross described him as aging. I'd heard he died. I'd heard Mr. Andrew Greenwood had died. I don't know if that's true, but this is, of course, but he mentioned something that I've mentioned, and he's noticed as well, the connection to incidents like the aerial school. And of course, I would add Broadhaven in Wales to that as well. They're very similar. There's a rumour that a girl went missing after the Westall incident. One of the witnesses, that she'd been kidnapped by the Men in Black or something, or by the CIA. But no, she just moved home, apparently. Bryce's plumber saw a UFO at his school in Los Angeles. This is interesting. And Ross met a man who'd written a secret report on Westall. And he kept a copy for himself, because apparently there was no secret report on Westall, because according to official stories it never happened. Although when Ross and other, not just him, but like Keith Basterfield and Ryan, what's his name? Ryan somebody who investigated Westall, when they went up to the news report and they wanted to look at the TV archive for the news coverage of that day in 1966, and the newspapers who covered it, there was a big folder just missing from the shelf. Well, the TV coverage had gone. I think some of the newspaper reports had gone as well. They talk a lot about Steven Spielberg's new movie, and I brought this up in the Q&A. Apparently, Bryce is now working on a new movie, and it's actually a documentary about George Knapp. Yeah. And I did mention this point about Spielberg's movie. Now, Ross dismissed this, but Bryce dismissed this, but I just said, because Bryce had brought up Steven Spielberg's new movie, Disclosure. It's originally could be called The Dish. And of course, there was a possible answer later on in the day from someone else. But why is Steven Spielberg in 1997? He did an interview which was put onto the 20th anniversary Close Encounters DVD special edition, and I've seen it. I've got a copy of that. And Spielberg does this interview saying that he couldn't make Close Encounters today, i.e., 1997. He says because he lost his interest in UFOs. He's just gone. He's moved on to other things. Now, I actually thought that was very strange, because obviously something has rekindled his interest since then. And not only that, but this new film, it's in production. What happened was, the first thing, everything was back to front with this movie, because when he started work on it, he immediately gave it a release date, which I think is sometime next autumn. And then he also he started revealing lots of information about it, and there was even some publicity shots from location shoots. There was some press releases for when they were going to be doing location shoots. The working title, Disclosure, was revealed. And I said to Bryce, isn't that, I suppose he would know, because he's the expert when it comes to the media, but does Hollywood normally do that sort of thing? Because normally, in my experience, I found that you don't even, when someone's working on a movie, there is a publicity, marketing and advertising process that begins a few months before the premiere to build up interest in that. And there's some critic reviews, there's some critic screenings, and then it goes on to general release. And Bryce said, no, don't read. Bryce answered, don't read too much into that, he said. But still, when it does release, I'll be the first in the queue to see it. And I said, me too. In fact, I think I'll be the second. I'll be behind Bryce in the queue. And Ross said, who here thinks catastrophic disclosure would be a good idea? And I went, funny, he asked how many people thought disclosure would be a good idea, and it was a forest of hands in the air. Then he said catastrophic disclosure, and it was more like kind of scrub. I put my hand up, a few other people did, but he says, well, one thing it would do is break the political impasse. And I'm disappointed because Trump hasn't kept to his pledge. And so am I, actually. Although, I'm a big Trump fan, but yeah, I mean, he's got to get a move on. I mean, I'm not saying he's doing this because he's deceived us, but it does feel like he's signed all these executive orders for overclassification, the federal secrets orders, and he's got Nancy Mace and what's his name, Mike Rounds to Chairman Mike Rounds to get involved in this and to set up this working party, this group, which I've covered before. They need to get a move on, yeah. Then there was the UFO and nukes panel. This was interesting because this is where there was Ryan Wood, someone called Captain David Schindler, I've never heard of, Captain Salas, Steve Bassett was the chair and then the moderator, and then there was Captain Robert Jameson. Now, I've heard of Captain Salas, but Jameson and Schindler apparently are colleagues of Captain Salas, and Jameson actually relieved the shift at a November flight. This was the Launch Control Center where this happened. Anyway, Bryce Zabel was there as well, and Danny Sheehan. And he said it's a long time before Congress it was a long time in terms before there was Congress testimony when this happened, because there's never been like one on nuclear weapons. There's been the UFO and nukes books and film. And then there was the press club route thing about nukes. But then finally, Captain Salas is going to testify before Congress about an incident that happened in 1966. The wheels turn slowly. And he mentions that the UFOs are against us using these weapons and think we should get rid of them. That's the main message he got from this experience, and the other two MCs, his missile combat crew, agree. And this was essentially a long Q&A. This whole thing was extended Q&A. There was the Malmstrom case mentioned, and in a sense that was meant to shock us. But then the Ukraine incident was meant to shock us even more, I think, because that was really far more alarming and dramatic than what happened at Maelstrom, because the missiles were actually started, not stopped. Someone mentioned something called Project A199, its connection to Bob Jacobs. Now, this is the infamous Nuke the Moon scenario. There's a book called Nuke the Moon, where there was a plan to detonate a nuclear weapon on the moon. And it's never been confirmed, but there's been some connection to Bob Jacobs and the rocket he saw shot down by a flying saucer. Unconfirmed, of course. But then, of course, then Bryce disagreed, and he said, because some people can interpret this as a peace message, they're trying to make us to give up our nukes. But as Bryce said this, and I've made this observation, we don't know that. I mean, it could be intel gathering for a planned invasion. I mean, I don't want to be alarmist, but it's possible. Alien abduction, for example, is not friendly. It's done non-consensually. And someone made the point as well, I think it was Steve himself actually made the point that governments see themselves, they say things like, well, the people couldn't handle the truth. But, well, my answer would be, but you can handle the truth. Why do you think you're better than us? Unless they are reptilian, which means that's an argument to suggest they're reptilian. Apparently, the government shoots down UFOs with advanced weapons. This has been suggested by Jameson. By Steve. Now, this is awful, because leaving aside the moral issue, we shouldn't be taking hostile action against an enemy that can exert more force than we can, because that's suicidal, because they could retaliate. And in fact, some of the panel thought the intent was actually to provoke the UAPs into some kind of action, which of course is very, very worrying. I mean, this is reckless stuff, as well as wrong, as immoral. So it looks, and he mentions the congressmen, the two Mikes, they were essentially blackmailed by the military-industrial complex, because what happened was Lockheed Martin and Raytheon and all these other groups, they threatened to fund the campaigns of their rival Congress people at the next election. Congress people only get to like 2 years, and then because there's Congress elections every 2 years, and there's a presidential every 4 years. So there's like a staggered congressional seat shift. And so technically they could have had less than 2 years, depending on which seat they're in, and then they'd be out. Their cushy career would be over. Would the aliens stop a nuclear war? I hope so, obviously, but don't depend on it. We mustn't get complacent. But the thing is, some people are suggesting that a nuclear exchange could lead to it's kind of the ultimate catastrophic disclosure. because the aliens would come and pluck the missiles out of the sky, and then everyone would know they were there. And this essentially could also be this could be a deterrent to to catastrophic disclosure. But then something I thought of, which they didn't mention, actually one of them did mention it. This could be the ultimate nuclear deterrent, because the government wouldn't launch the weapons because it would reveal the UFOs. That beats Star Wars any day, doesn't it? David Schindler talks about he talks about the security guards at November flight that saw these things, and he says one of the other launch control officers are still alive, and one of them got abducted. And the security guards, the guys on the surface who they're usually younger, lower ranking people, usually enlisted rather than commissioned. They were transferred out. Some of them left the Air Force, and he said that this red light that appeared, a lot of them had PTSD, as if this red light had messed with their minds. It will shock them too much. Someone asked if this was filmed. Was there any CCTV footage or coverage of this incident happening? And they said, yeah, there is probably some, although CCTV wasn't as common in those days there as it is now. But the nuclear launch control centers did have recordings made. And there was a similar incident at Minot Air Force Base, which is nearby, investigated by J. Allen Hynek. Someone asked if the destruction, the Mars, the change in the environment on Mars could be caused by nukes. It depends. I mean, in my view, it's probably more likely to be volcanic or something like that, or caused by changes in the planet. But we know that Mars used to be Earth-like, as I said many times. Someone asked if Jameson, if there were any, he was like a technical officer, was there any clues when the engineers went out there to fix the missiles of what might have caused them to go down? And apparently there was no obvious cause. The technicians couldn't find any actual obvious cause, like there were no wires disconnected or anything like that physically. They just went down, and then they had to be rebooted, basically. Why do UFOs crash, someone asked, when they're such high tech? Slightly off topic, but the answer is UFO crashes are associated with certain phenomena. One of those is high energy radar, electromagnetic pulses as well, and there are apparently weapons that can do this. But there's also natural phenomena that can do this, such as lightning. And UFO crashes are often associated with very violent thunderstorms. Roswell, for example. And also, Roswell is a good example, as is Virginia. What could it be? Could this be deliberate seeding of technology? The aliens are actually giving us technology. That's often a theory that's come up. Or could it be? Or could it be just space junk even? Apparently, Congressman Representative Eric Burleson, he almost came to contact in the desert. So we almost did have a politician, which was what Steve was lamenting about yesterday. We almost did have a politician, which is quite something. Anyway, then I went across to the Stir Lounge to see Vinnie Adams, the Disclosure team, interviewing Chris from Area 52. This is another live podcast. Yeah, and next page. I've been using these little small page. I've been using these these small things because I've been using these like detached pieces of paper because they're a bit easier to handle. Why do the aliens show us like the end of the world? It seems to somehow it's a bit like someone was describing the news, watching the news to that scene in Clockwork Orange where Alex is he sat in front of a screen with his eyes forced open, watching horrible scenes of violence, and he's trapped. It feels a bit like that sometimes. You're shown these horrible things, then you're told these awful things are happening in the world, horrific, and there's nothing you can do about it. So we're told the world is horrible, and we're also told we're helpless. That's the message from the mainstream media, but it sometimes feels like the UFOs are doing the same. So what can we do about this? If the UFOs and the aliens want to warn us about nuclear weapons and environmental destruction, as they do very often, like at Aerial School, for example, what can we do about it? What can we do about it then? And I don't know. I mean, this is a good question. a question. Or are they just teasing us the way the mainstream media does? Is it another like future shock demoralization tactic, which is the purpose of what the media do? It's become clear to me that they do simply want us to. They want us to suffer. Do aliens react to human observation? That's a it seems they do actually in various kinds of ways. For example, you see more of the orb sightings now than you do the big structured craft, and some people have asked, is that something to do with the fact that we've been attacking them? So they send drones. Are the orbs kind of drones? The ones that Ashton Forbes saw circling the plane. He says that's secret government technology, and he might be right, but I'm not so sure. Is full disclosure possible? That's a question. I would say it has to be. That is where everything is known, as happens in Roswell Rising, and but more so the sequels, the Roswell Revealed and Roswell Redeemed. Available at all good bookshops, £10. Come and see me at these conferences. I'll sign your copy, which will be worth a lot of money in a few years. But then there's some, they raised the question, well, maybe disclosure is simply a personal thing. You know they exist. Well, isn't that disclosure? You could say so. I mean, a lot of people are satisfied with that. However, there is something Freudian here, because to have it acknowledged by the state is, I think, a feature. It's a factor to have it acknowledged by the government, because it essentially is the Freudian father figure. I mentioned this again in Roswell Rising, that it would change matters. To know something's real is one thing. To have the government say that it is real is another matter entirely. Which is why when you're a little kid, and again I make this point in Roswell Rising in this conversation between the two of the characters, Klain and one of the others. Can't remember which one it is. I wrote the bloody thing. Why can't I remember? Which is that it's when you were a little kid and you believed in fairies at the bottom of your garden, and your dad came up and said, "Don't be silly, son. There's no such thing as fairies." Maybe there's a little part of you that thought that's a relief. There's a part of you who was relieved that your father was this grounding, kind of rational, skeptical force in your life. What if your dad said to you, "Yeah, I know they're there"? Would that be scary? There's a good horror short. You can get it on YouTube. Actually, it's a horror short. It's called "I Saw It Too," or "I Heard It Too." It's like a little girl who hears these ghostly footsteps in her house, and her mother comes in, and you think the mum's going to say, "It's all right, dear. It's just the creaking floorboards." It's just, "I heard it too." Is it right to call ourselves UFO believers when it's all about information? I just think it's convenient. It's a convenient idiom. Think of it as an idiom if you like, because believer is a bit like derogatory, isn't it? It implies irrationality and sort of wide-eyed just acceptance, which is not fair. They mentioned compartmentalization in relation to secret science. Now, Irina Scott brings up this point. I actually interviewed Dr. Irina Scott, which is that she would often be handed these strange pieces of material to work on. They'd say, give her a piece of metal and say, "Irina, go and melt that and find out what temperature it melts at." And she'd go to all the forges she could, and there was only one she could find, the most powerful in the country, that could melt this metal, which melted like, I think it's like, she thought it might be tungsten, but then it had properties that meant it wasn't tungsten, but it had a similar melting point to tungsten, which I think is 2,000 degrees centigrade or something. Very, very hot. Tungsten doesn't melt, and you get it very hot indeed. But she didn't know they didn't tell her where it came from. So that's compartmentalization, like the Manhattan Project. She was working on a part of the project, but only the people at the top knew what the project was. What's the scariest ET story when it comes to entities and beings? Charles Hall's tall whites, the Norwegians who were 24 teeth, they said. That didn't sound very alarming to me. They asked whether greys were biomechanical, and this would fit in with the Reddit scientist. Indeed, Chris of Area 52 does. He did a show on that, actually, all about it. a big long breakdown of the Reddit scientist testimony, similar to the one I did. What are depictions of aliens in the media? Is that sort of like conditioning us? It's very interesting because aliens are all kinds. But they're becoming more and more realistic in films and TV. And then they mentioned the Steven Spielberg movie, and they make a similar point to me. And they're wondering if they've done some kind of deal with Spielberg. Would you explain his rekindled interest here, the revival of his interest in UFOs, but also the fact there's so much? And I actually asked this in the Q&A. There's been such a massive download of information, a massive dissemination, a broadcasting of information about this film that's not even been finished yet. Is it possible they've done some kind of deal where the very last scene of Spielberg's film is like this real UFO, and they say, "All right, Stephen, you can be the disclosure guy in your movie." I'll definitely be one step behind Bryce in the cinema queue, definitely. They mention all right, this is interesting. I didn't know this, but in Arrival, there's the canary they take into the spaceship in the film Arrival. If you've not seen Arrival, please do. I mean, alien invasion movies vary an awful lot in terms of technical creativity and intellectual content. There's some that are very, very low, indeed, in those features. In Independence Day, I'm not going to rant again about Independence Day, but Arrival scores very high on both those axes. It's the best alien invasion movie ever. But there's this: they take this canary into this spaceship to test the atmosphere. But then you see in the scenes with the woman's daughter who dies when she's a teenager, you see like the canary in that, and it's kind of like symbolic of the daughter. I didn't notice that. I'll have to watch that again. What's the role of creators? And this is interesting to have a little discussion about the role of creators, which of course I am as well. There's cattle mutilation, and they mention human mutilation, which is it's somewhere where even Linda Moulton Howe is reluctant to talk about that because it destroys this illusion that somehow an alien species investigating us would see humans as somehow special when they don't. There's the question of whether human mutilation, or sorry, if these mutilations, human or animal, are actually simply government experiments. This is the Gabe Valdez line. It's very much, this is very, very popular idea with the backslappers. They love this. But the evidence, it doesn't make sense. The evidence is not there to begin with. There's no signs of what you normally find with a human abduction. And secondly, it doesn't make sense rationally because, I mean, scientists do experiments on farm animals anyway. And of course, they're going to find the easiest and cheapest way of getting hold of these animals. And the easiest and cheapest way, or an easier and cheaper way by far than sending some kind of silenced helicopter into the middle of the fields to pick them up, simply go and buy them from a farmer's market, which is what they do. Yeah. Then I came back for the second podcast, which was Chris's Area 52. Now, his guest was Paul Hynek, who turned up late, but they started early as well. They started before 5 p.m, so I came in and it had already started. And Chris talked about his meeting with Bob Lazar, and he mentions the 4chan whistleblower. I got a feeling that is a new whistleblower that's come out. It's not very credible. I got a feeling it's actually AI. Technically speaking, the Reddit scientist could be as well, but I don't know. I don't think so. I hope not anyway. What's happened now? Has my Wi-Fi gone down again? The Wi-Fi, as I said earlier, the Wi-Fi in my room is not very reliable. I had to carry my computer to the lobby to download the Ashton's thing and AJ. AJ is on Joe Rogan. Yeah. They mentioned the Aztec crash, which is very interesting. It's like the other Roswell. Happened a few months after Roswell in New Mexico at another place. Really deserves to be. It was publicised by a man whose surname was Scully. You can never forget that if you're an X-Files fan. But it deserves really to be as popular as Roswell, I would say. And Chris is developing his own psionics, and Paul Hynek mentions when he was a kid several things because he grew up with UFOs. He was born like in about 1960, and his father, J. Allen Hynek, was by then had kind of become radicalized by force of evidence. and he used to put UFO ornaments on the Christmas tree. And in 1973, they went on a cruise from the US to the Gulf of Guinea off the coast of Africa to see a solar eclipse. It was actually the same one that they sent Concorde. You remember, that was the year when they sent Concorde to follow it, and it was the longest eclipse, the longest observed eclipse in history. So the people on Concorde really got to. The Concorde can fly at twice the speed of sound, so it's almost as fast as the eclipse moves. Yeah, but they were actually on a cruise ship, but. Two other guys were on there, which is interesting. Neil Armstrong and Isaac Asimov. Isaac Asimov was a bit of a ladies' man, apparently, because one of the girls went up to him on this cruise ship and says, "Oh, Dr. Asimov, it's such an honor to meet you. Will you give me your autograph?" So he took out a felt-tip pen, what they call a Sharpie over here, pulled up her skirt and signed her thigh. Didn't say how old this girl was. I hope she wasn't too young. Paul actually knows, he deals with the skeptics. He knows Seth Shostak of the SETI Institute and Michael Shermer, but can you call Michael Shermer a skeptic still? I've covered that before. They talk about DMT a lot, and how it's like melatonin and serotonin. Graham Hancock's covered this in detail. Very interesting set of speakers there. And I'm going to get breakfast, and we're going to go back for day 3, Saturday.
Here we go, guys. Let's heading for the venue on this lovely Saturday morning. Glad I put my winter jacket on and a scarf and hat, because it's going to plunge to a teeth-shattering 31 degrees centigrade, about 87 Fahrenheit today. That is very, very, very cool, very mild indeed for this particular region. I've had a good morning, I had a nice breakfast, and funny enough, the lady who served me, and it's different to the one yesterday, the lady who served me remembered me from last year. It's extraordinary, because she must see so many people working there, but she said, "I remember you, well, maybe it's," I was saying, I think maybe it's because I've got this English accent, which is quite rare. This is not like a foreign tourist destination for non-UFO woo-woo wackadoos, but but she didn't remember me. She said, "Oh, why do you remember me?" I says, "Oh," she says, "you're very happy and optimistic." And that's good news. I try to be. Although that could have something to do with the fact that I'm always very exuberant when I come to a conference like this. This, of course, is the best conference I've ever been to. So, yeah, definitely. Now, I was thinking about Gareth Davis again earlier. And I don't know, maybe some of you viewers can help me. I don't know. So I'm specifically talking about my viewers who live in this area, because I know some of you do. When Gareth died, as I said earlier, his family were not very amenable. I'd never got the chance to speak to any of them. They wouldn't speak to any of us. But Gareth, as I said, in his little man cave, which I walked past and saw, he had a huge collection of books, DVDs, computer discs, his computer files and things like that. And I often wonder what happened to them, because when I was talking to this lady Karen, who then disappeared from Facebook, she's the only person in Gareth's life I ever got the chance to sort of liaise with, to try and work out what to do with Gareth's property. I thought it would be a terrible waste for it to be lost. Yet there's no doubt that his widow would only throw it away. She just wanted to get rid of this stuff. She was not in any way interested in the woo-woo stuff. So Karen said she would arrange. She contacted a group called the Orange County UFO Society, which is like the local woo-woos, and Gareth actually knew them. Well, he was involved with the Los Angeles UFO group. There's another one called the Orange County UFO group. But Gareth, the last few months of his life, he actually went on skywatches and things with the LA UFO group. And Karen said she tried to arrange for them to come pick the stuff up. All Gareth's books, his DVDs, all his like UFO and paranormal material. They come and pick it up, maybe distribute it amongst their members. Make sure all went to good homes. And of course, Gareth's files, which included all of his not just the Mindset podcast, but the Nervous Teeth podcast that he did before then. He did several podcasts before Mindset. He'd been doing this for a long time, literally since internet began. so Karen, I was talking to Karen about sorting that out, and then there was the funeral and it all went quiet. So that's the last I heard from her. And since this, I don't know what happened to all this stuff. I mean, it's possible that you, one of you viewers, might have it. You might actually have one of Gareth's old books or DVDs. If so, that's great. It's possible that the Orange County people managed to get hold of it and gave it all good homes. As for his files, you know, there's some very precious stuff there. Now, you'll be pleased to know that, I mean, every time I did a Mindset show with Gareth, I downloaded my own copy. And I sometimes think to myself, well, why did I do that? Because it's my own show, so why did I do that sort of thing? And it turns out that it's a good job I did, because I had my own archive of all the shows I did with Gareth. Now, the problem is that I did about 250 shows with Gareth, and they're all preserved. I can't believe I was actually considering deleting those shows, deleting that entire folder, so that I could free up disk space. Can you believe that? How could I be so stupid? Anyway, good job I didn't do that in the end, because so those are preserved. I've actually set up, I put them on archive.org. I've got a page for them. But there are lots of other shows he's done. Now, some of the Nervous Teeth shows have been preserved. Basically, what's been happening is we've been going around all the old listeners of Mindset podcast and all Gareth's other podcasts, and he did a couple of shows. I mean, there was Alex's own show. All the different hosts had their own, like, independent, like, talk shows. Mine was called The Poker, reference to Ludwig Wittgenstein, of course. And so those were all I had all my poker shows. I did 11 poker shows in all, plus the Mindset podcast, all the ones I was in. And then there was some of the Nervous Teeth were found. But it's possible that you, my viewers, my subscribers, you might have some of those shows on your computer somewhere. In which case, please let us know, because we want to build up a full archive of all Gareth Davis's old shows. It's a memorial project, so please do that if you can. Get in touch. Okay, I'm almost at the venue now, so it's about 8:30, so I'm getting there nice and early again. I'm hoping to get a face to cam with Ashton Forbes, maybe a couple of other people. So yeah. Hello everyone, I'm in the Atlantis room now. Nick Pope is coming on in a minute, so I'm curious to what he has to say. I'm with Nancy. Hey, you remember Nancy from yesterday from the HTA? Oh my god.
Singing, I want to be a free man.
There's his Royal Popeness.
And then what's his name?
Pope. Well, you know, it could be that Nick Pope will find a way to redeem himself in my eyes. That was actually a really, really good speech he just gave. That's a great. The Q&A was really good as well. Nancy asked a good question, so did someone else. A couple of other good questions too. I'm now going to try and buy my pass for Anthony Peake's workshop later today. That's my next step. So I'm heading up to the reception to see if anyone's there now. If not, I'm not sure how I can buy one. I can buy one in cash on the door, so that might be the solution. Guys, the far side is pretty busy at the moment as people, I think, queuing up for Linda Moulton Howe's workshop. I've met another guy from England, a guy called Pascal from Brighton. So if you're watching, Pascal, shout out to you in Brighton. He's the one who asked a very good question. I'll go into that later to Nick Pope. And so right now there's old Dickie Dolan over there. Anyway, I've got my workshop to Anthony Peake. $24.99, it's not bad. So that's where I'm heading at 2 p.m. Until then, I mean, believe it or not, there's nothing I particularly want to see. There's Linda Moulton Howe's workshop, but I think I'd rather just do a bit of shopping. I may buy something. I think maybe I'll get a UFO t-shirt or something. I've also got to buy a present for somebody, who you'll find out who that is later. So I'll spend this hour browsing the stalls. I just love these. I just bought a little present I bought my present. Eccentric, that's good, that is. And that, I think, I should put in my window. Ain't that a fact? Hello, yeah, I'm here at the stalls here on the merchandise area on the far side, and I'm here with Marianne. So hello, Marianne.
Hi.
So what brings you to this lovely conference?
Well, myself and my partner, we have an organization called UAP-PD, which is Unidentified Anomalous Phenomenon. PD for Police Department. We are retired police officers out of Arizona, and we started the organization to gather stories from law enforcement and first responders that have seen things that they can't explain, which could be a UFO, a paranormal, or possibly a cryptid, Bigfoot, skinwalker. And they don't talk about it because of the stigma out there. They are afraid of being ridiculed, and also they're afraid of losing their career.
Yeah. Is that still a problem, like where you talk openly about this, and there's still like it's still outside the Overton window, so to speak? It's not acceptable. Is that still a problem?
That is very much a problem. You're starting to hear about this disclosure on the news and on TV. You're seeing that they're talking about pilots, military, commercial pilots. It's starting to be a safe zone for them to talk about it, but you never hear anything about law enforcement and first responders. That's why we started the organization. We want people to know that there is a safe zone. Law enforcement are seeing things, and they're not talking, and they need to be heard. They need to know that there is a place that they can come and share their encounters and not worry about the threat to their career. And that's what we are here for.
Well, what do you think it is about the police work and the duties you perform that makes you possibly more likely than the average civilian to see a UFO?
The biggest thing is we spend over a year in training to become a police officer. As people says, we are professional, how do they put that? Oh my goodness, now I forgot the word. But we are trained observers. That's what I was trying to say, is we are taught to be great observers. There's two things about that. One, we have to know when we get to a scene what we're observing, what's going on, how can we solve that issue on what case we're working. So, would you rather have a police officer that goes up to an accident scene and goes, "Sir, everything's going to be okay, the paramedics are on their way, you're going to be okay"? Or would you rather have a police officer come to an accident scene and go, "Oh my gosh, there's so much blood, oh my gosh, I don't know, you might lose your leg, I don't know what to do"? You want all law enforcement, first responders are used to dealing with tragedy or incidents that are just out of the ordinary. You know, we're not going to freak out. We're going to take that and go, okay, what is that? What do we see? And we're going to calmly, take the report, and we're going to try to absorb everything we see of that situation. So that's what's great about law enforcement. You get the regular public, they're going to be freaking out. They see a UFO, they see a Bigfoot, they see some kind of ghost apparition. And that's why what makes police a lot different than a regular citizen. We are trained observers. And we're going to take every situation calmly and try to figure out what we're seeing.
Well, I would include hospital porters in that as well, of course, because I think we would respond calmly. But yeah, some people would freak out. Yeah, I know what you mean. But there's been like other people. I mean, we were talking privately about Gary Heseltine, who runs a magazine, former British Transport Police. There's also a guy called Tony Dodd who had sightings and experiences, and there's a chap called Alan Godfrey who had two very, very weird encounters in the line of his duties in 1980 in Yorkshire, England. So it just seemed like that just kind of like support your case. You know, the police are more likely to come across these things than your average person. So yeah, brilliant. And so you've got your website there, and it's not just UFOs you cover; it's cryptids and paranormal as well.
Yes, we cover everything.
That's good because I'm interested in all of that. Yeah,
I'm
interested in the whole thing.
If anyone that is a law enforcement officer, first responder, and you have an encounter, you've had an encounter, but you don't want to talk about it, please contact UAPPD.com.
Yeah, right.
And our website is UAP-PD.com.
Yeah. Great, I'll show you I've actually got the card, and when we come to the souvenir section of the show, I'll show you it in more detail. Well, thank you very much, Marianne.
Okay, well, thank you for coming by. We do appreciate it.
You're very welcome, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Oh, thank you. You too.
All right, I'm sitting in the bar now. Now, they give away free Ribena here, by the way. You've got to go up to reception up there, and they've got a number of, like, they've got water with orange flavoured water and stuff like that, lime flavoured water. You get free Ribena from a dispenser with iced Ribena, which is nice. Now, I'll tell you, I should explain where I managed to get my pass for Anthony Peake's talk. There is, I didn't realise this, and for future reference, or if you come here, you'll know. But once the registration is shut, and you want to you'll see someone like from admin. This is where you go. The Esmeralda box office. This is Esmeralda box office, actually used by the conference during these few days of the Contacts in the Desert, and you can buy anything you want from there. Okay, so it's simple as that. So that's why I managed to do it. It's $24. It's quite cheap actually, considering it's like an intensive it's kind of an intensive. How long is it actually? It's Anthony Peake 2 to 3:30. You get an hour and a half in a workshop with Anthony Peake, which is like it's more personal than the lecture. I mean, you get to talk to him and things like that. It's kind of a round table thing. He asks you questions as well as you asking him. So it makes up for me missing his talk yesterday. So I look forward to that. Well, I don't know if this is showing up on camera, but there are lights flashing on the upstairs balconies, on the upstairs parapets. There's lights flashing. There's an alarm going off every few minutes. It sounds like an air raid siren. So I don't know what's going on, but no one's come up telling us to evacuate, which is a good sign. It could be that someone set off a sprinkler, maybe someone's burning incense in their room or something, which they tell you not to do. But I'm just gonna. Everything seems to be normal at the moment. It's a bit embarrassing. My right knee's hurting. It sounds like I'm getting my first attack of osteoarthritis for about 8 years, which is a bit worrying. But anyway, I'm gonna get some more Ribena, then I'm gonna go and see. Pardon?
The Josh Gates book signing?
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, it's back in the corner over there if you're interested.
I keep hearing it sounds like a fire alarm going off.
I have no idea. I don't work with hotels, so I don't know.
Right, of course you're a volunteer, yeah.
I did just for the conference, so I don't,
Yeah. Well, no one's telling us to evacuate, so I assume it's nothing major.
That's how I feel, and I do know there's an exit. So.
Oh, well, but I can't smell any smoke or anything, so...
Yeah, I don't think it's
can't be that bad.
Turned off now, and the elevators never stop, so I think that meant a lot too. So.
All right, okay, yeah, exactly. They're still working the elevators.
Yeah, exactly. They'll turn off immediately.
All right, yeah.
So enjoy yourself, though.
Thank you very much. I'm loving this. It's great.
Yeah, good.
Thank you for thank you for your service.
Huh?
Thank you for your service. You volunteers are really cool.
I appreciate that.
Take care. Bye bye.
We're going to go downstairs and try to finish.
And if you can see old Peter Robbins there behind me, to get close to him, so and give him the excuse to say, "Oh, I am." His usual. Peter is just very good at playing the noble martyr. I am such a good person, and I have to put up with so much. It's really awful. These horrible people in my life. I'm not going to give him that kind of excuse. So I'm just going to walk past him now towards Enterprise to Anthony Peake's show. That's how it's done, you see. Hope Chris Evers saw that. Oh, sorry, Anthony's down here in Independence, not Enterprise. Slightly bigger room. I've got a thing about these workshops is like you can't have too many people because they just sell out. I mean, once they sell out or they're sold out, then you don't get any more tickets sold. So I know I'll get a seat, but it's nice to get here early. I can have a word with Sandra as well. Hi there, I'm here with Sandra Sneed. Hi Sandra, how are you?
Hello, very well, thank you.
This is HPANWO TV viewers. And so you've got several interesting things here, such as you've got some books, haven't you?
Yes, I just came out with the book version of a program called The Accelerated Self, which is 100% source-led. So I'm a source communicator. I allow the being that we call God or universal consciousness to speak through me, and I help people to know their soul better.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Do you do like psychic readings? And is that a good description?
Psychic, it definitely comes into the psychic life. Sorry, I had to.
No, but it's good talking to you. Hopefully I get the chance to talk to Sandra. We'll have a more detailed interview later, maybe on HPANWO radio.
Yeah, I would love that, Ben.
It's great to meet you.
Likewise.
Enjoy the rest of the conference. Bye-bye. I like this t-shirt. Your Abductions 101, UFOs and the Paranormal Connections with Stephen and Leslie Shaw. Are you Stephen, I guess?
I'm Stephen, I guess, yes.
Well, it's good to meet you. I think you were on last year. I saw you
That's
last
right.
year.
We were having a brew at the bar talking about soccer.
Oh yeah, on favourite sport, yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
So you got like you have like a show, do you, on YouTube?
Yeah, we're on Gnostic Television, and our documentary that came out on YouTube, now it's on Roku and other platforms. It's called Who They Are.
Oh right.
And it's about the paranormal and the UFO connection. My family from England and from Europe, from like Germany and from Scotland, how for 4 generations we've had interactions with what we thought was a spirit guide. Turns out it's more our cousins, what you call aliens. Most people call them aliens. We call them cousins. The difference is that they are basically us. Okay, that's why they breed with us. So anyways, that's what we're talking about.
Well, it's interesting, because I mean, there are a lot of reports that some extraterrestrials do actually resemble us very closely. In fact,
the Nordics.
Yeah, there's some of you could put them in normal clothes and walk down the street, and you probably wouldn't give them a second look.
Yeah, I've met people here already that have shown me pictures of what they call hybrids. So one of the giveaways is that they never blink, okay, and their skin is too perfect.
Yeah, that's interesting to know. Yeah,
so
that's
interesting
to know. I mean,
but definitely, our booth, you can scan the QR codes for like our documentary if you like.
We'll do. That'd be interesting to know. I'll come and have a look at that. I mean, I think I might have actually done so already, but I'll check. I'll come and have a look anyway.
Right down there.
Oh, cool. I will do. Yeah, I think I might have seen it earlier. But do you know what? Tell me, do you think there are any aliens or hybrids here today at this conference?
Now that you're mentioning it, I'm going to keep my eye out for it. But you know what? I wouldn't be surprised. This would be one of the perfect places for them to come.
Because there's other conferences I've been to where definitely they turn up. I met one of them, and I'm sure she's one of them. She had like a strange-shaped skull, things like that. And there's some people that walk around in costume. There's a couple of guys dressed as Men in Black, and there's a lady looking at
I saw that 2 years ago, the Men in Black, and they were playing the parts very, very well. But yeah, definitely. I think you got to look for their mannerisms. It's just like they kind of fit in, but they don't quite walk the same, and also their skin is a little bit too perfect, and they don't blink. There's certain giveaways. So I'm going to keep my eye open. I wasn't really thinking about it, yesterday, but since I met somebody who's met hybrids, and I think I met one myself, a male hybrid, about 30 years ago, just didn't move correctly. Young man too. Young man. Just his movements were just a little bit too jerky, and didn't quite look you in the eye, but it was kind of just strange. You get vibes off of people that there's something that's not right.
If you saw UFO Jim's talk on Thursday, he was like describing an incident which I actually witnessed, which happened on Wednesday evening in the bar, where these two young women were there, and he's convinced that he believes that they may be hybrids. I'm not so sure myself, but
all hybrids are going to have some degree of mental control over a person too, and they can use their eyes, and they're also telepathic, at least somewhat telepathic, and they can control conversations or move conversations because they are telepathic.
Well, if I bump into them again, I'll try and talk to them for a bit longer and see if that happens.
Yeah, see if they lead you down, see if they control it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks very much, Stephen. Much appreciated.
Okay.
Thanks. I'll send you a link to this when it's over. I'll send you a link to this video when I upload it. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Right, I've really excelled myself this time. I've come to the wrong place early. I suppose that's better than coming to the wrong place late. But right now, oh my God, I've got camera envy. Want to swap? I love that, man. And my eyes are watering. I've got to the wrong place. First of all, it's Jesse Michaels at Atlantis. It's actually 12:45, not 1:45. And so I'm going to go across now to Atlantis to see Jesse Michaels. He's the guy who interviewed Harold Malmgren, if you remember my last reply video to Steve. Was it? No, it was not the Steve Mumbling one. It was UFO Disclosure. So I'm now heading there.
It's Jerry. I thought it was Jerry. It's Jerry Griffin. No, it's not. It's not him. I thought it was Jerry Griffin for a minute. Okay. Okay, guys. So I got to go all the way back across to the near side and Atlantis. There's a lady singing here. Thanks for the music.
Yeah, let me get another song up.
Oh, okay, cool. This lady's been singing. She's been singing to us.
All right, here we go. Oh, wait, that's not the right song. This is the way. The one.
And I just, outside my room in the hallway that I stayed in.
There she's going.
Made up their minds, and they started packing. They left before the sun came up that day. Next to eternal summer slacking.
Alright, I've come out from Jesse Michaels a little bit earlier. I just need to sort of like relax a bit. I think it's have a take a little break before Anthony's workshop, and so I've got like half an hour before I have to get over to that. I'm still open to find Ashton Forbes, so I can get like a little face-to-cam session with him. Which I don't know if we'll have to pin him down. Pinning him down is a bit difficult, but I did meet him and say hello. I should have done it then actually, but he was just in the middle of stuff. But my knee's getting worse. Really, like it's like really like a bit painful, a bit kind of like I'm kind of like what's the word? It's grinding a bit. It feels like it did about my last attack was over 5 years ago. I don't know what's come back on now. I don't know, who knows? Maybe it's because I'm a bit worried. I don't know. Anyway, it's clouding over at the moment, which is quite rare in this location. But it takes the edge off the heat a bit, which is nice. Thank goodness for air conditioning. Point out that these things here are fire pits. There's another one there, you see. Now what you see there is actually not fuel, it's just stones. These are actually gas fired, and at night time, I'll show you them if they appear, but gas flames come out of them. It seems like, I don't know, it must be, really when you consider how hot it is here anyway, nights are very sort of sultry and warm and muggy, it must feel incredibly uncomfortable to sit here when these have flames coming out of them, so I don't know exactly why they do that. People don't seem to mind. I've seen people sitting around them at night, so that's quite cool. The aliens are still up there, so you can just see them past that particular palm tree there. So this one's sticking out there. They're like Russell. They're bigger versions of Russell. So Russell, I've met your big cousins and your multicoloured cousins. This is the Discovery Room, guys. Now, through those doors is the Mitchell Hedges crystal skull. Somewhere in there, can't see. I'm not going to peek through, but that's where it's been kept. You can actually have a private appointment with, and handle the skull, meditate with it, and things like that. As I said earlier, I think it is a truly anomalous object, and I don't think it's fake. Let's read Nexus Magazine's coverage of that. So yeah, anyway, it'll soon be time for Anthony Peake's workshop. Hello everyone. You don't have to. But do you want to? What about you, Dave?
I'll do it for you guys.
All right. Thanks. So there we go. Thanks
Absolutely.
very much.
Where do I push?
It's on. It's on already.
Okay, fellas. Oh, you guys. Whoa. You got to get back over this way. So the light. Go over this way.
There we go.
Yeah, there you go, boys.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm Ben, as you know, and Dave, my friend Dave, is doing with the Good Vibes t-shirt. He's doing the camera work at the moment because I'm here with a fellow YouTuber, Kerry the Backyard Professor. So nice to meet you, Kerry. Very nice to see you. I've been watching your channel an awful lot, and if you watch the Backyard Professor, he covers
very similar subjects to myself. So if you like my channel, you'll like his. So yeah, so look at this. That's the Backyard Professor on YouTube.
My idea is that let's just keep it real. And it is so good to be able to meet. You came all the way from Boston.
I did. Yes, I did. I did travel a long way to get here, but you know what? It's worth every mile. I'm glad I'm here. I really am. So it's good to meet you. And I bet a lot of other people I know. I've never met before, but I know them online. I met Linda Moulton Howe. I met Ashen Forbes, and people I've known for a long time. Even some of them I've even spoken to online. But I made lots of new friends as well. So check out the Backyard Professor on YouTube.
Check him out too.
Thanks, boys.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm in here. There's Anthony, and I'm in the. This is in the enterprise room. I forgot what this room's called now, but just waiting for it all to start. Should be interesting. Got an hour and a half now of my first and only workshop. Absolutely fascinating discussion there by Anthony Peake. Now, you might say that, you know, what can Anthony tell me that I haven't already heard, because I'm so familiar with his work. That's partly true, although he always surprises me every time, and he has this time. And I'll tell you more actually when I do the review, the speech review. But yeah, extraordinary. It's really, it was really an amazing presentation by him. I'm really thinking of going to his intensive. I'll see what else is on, but I'm thinking of maybe spending like whatever, how much it costs to go. Yeah, another $24 would be all right to go to his intensive, I think. Okay, a bit of a dilemma about what I see next, because as you can see here, I finished the Anthony Peake workshop. I'm now down here at 4 p.m. coming up. It's now about quarter two. I'm kind of looking at either the Jason Quick lecture. I won't get into that. That's Enterprise. I won't get into Robert Salas's. I'd love to see that, but the queue's already going to be as far as the restroom, and I'll never get into that because it's in Enterprise. So I think it's either Jason Quick, Interdimensional Phenomena, or George and George. That's George Norrie and George Knapp. Probably that one. I think George and George. Guys, I've just seen the George and George. I'll give you a report later. It was really cool. And next up we have, that finished at 5:30, so in half an hour we've got the Kelly Chase lecture. That's the Inspiration, UFO Narrative Wars. I put us with Stephen Finley lecture. Oh, I'll give that a miss. Right, UFO Religion, Nation of Islam there. Mitch Randall, more about AI. Tempting, but I'm not sure I'm going to go for these particular workshops. I don't know. I mean, it's 6 p.m. to 7:30. Tricky. I'm thinking of like it's going to be Kelly Chase. I think. Yeah, I think it's going to be Kelly Chase, and that's an Inspiration. First of all, there's actually George Knapp there. It looks like they're doing like a live episode of Weaponized or something. There's Jeremy. He's there too. So I'm curious to see what happens. Well, I can't stay for long because I'm going to go over to see Kelly on the far side.
I didn't hear you. What did you say?
I'm talking about.
Excuse me. Yeah, sorry about that.
If you ever see me talking to myself, right?
Yeah,
I'm just talking to my viewers on YouTube. Yeah. I've got a channel. Ben the JL Porter. Like, share, subscribe. So that's Chris. That's Chris of Area 52. Oh, it must be his show, right? Cool. I can't stay for long, but because of course I'm going to go see Kelly in Inspiration. But I will. Let's just eavesdrop for a while. Okay, I'm in Inspiration, and waiting for Kelly Chase to come out. Come out of Kelly Chase's talk. That was extraordinary. Now I honestly disagreed with probably about half of it, but that might actually turn out to be the most interesting talk of this event so far. And I'll say more later, because she went into all kinds of stuff that I call backslapping, but thank you. It's possible this is kind of like a positive form of backslapping, if that makes sense. I'll say more later. I mean, I might have to just dedicate an entire session later after this event to talk about it, because it's so complicated. It really is. But yeah, that was very, very interesting indeed.
Hey guys, I've just met Ashton Forbes. I told you I met him yesterday and I didn't get a chance to talk to him on camera, but it's great to meet you, Ashton.
How's it going, everybody? Good to meet you as well.
Yeah, welcome. This is HPANWO TV and I'm Ben Emlyn Jones. Yeah, so how are you getting on? Because I mean, you've been talking about coming here for quite a while, and what's your experience of contacting the desert?
Oh, it's been awesome. I've met a ton of people that I probably would have never met otherwise. Followers, friends, other people in the UFO community. Pretty much everybody has been here. So I've been able to interact with really everybody out there.
Brilliant.
It's been awesome.
I know you had a bit of trepidation because obviously, like, you got your own ideas. You put them forward very forcefully. I don't agree with the people who call you names and say you're a troll and all that. I don't think you are. You're forceful, you know, but that's not the same as being trollish or aggressive or anything. But has everyone been arguing, or have you been all right? You've been like friendly with everyone, or they've been friendly with you?
Yeah, I think it's been really friendly actually. I got to talk to Jeremy Corbell. There's been some history there with the Joe Rogan stuff. I got to see like AJ's brother Gino. I got to interact with Ross Colhart. I think I'm hoping to honestly just be able to like rebuild some bridges and show people that, you know, I'm not trying to like interfere with anybody else, anyone's doing, and just kind of do my own thing.
Yeah, I mean, you've got your own ideas, and you know, I think you're right. I think you're right about MH370. I really do. I don't, but I think I often find people when they're online, they're not as well behaved, but when you meet them face to face, they're often much better behaved. You know what I mean?
You got to realize like online is online as well, and like I feel like people shouldn't take the stuff that's said online too seriously. Like, you know, in terms of, I hope people don't take what I say too seriously as well, because obviously I criticize people quite significantly in the UFO community. And
some of them deserve it, you know.
In some cases, yeah, and in some cases maybe I push it too far. Absolutely, but you know, at the same time, like I hope that people understand that it's not coming from a place of, you know, any type of personal thing or anything like that. Yeah.
I'm sure. I think most people, everyone here seems to be in a good mood. Everyone's happy. Yeah. But once this energy takes over, you know, everyone's sort of fine. So that's cool, but that's brilliant. You think you'll come back?
Oh yeah. Actually, I've had a great time out here. I mean, it's been fun hanging out. I've watched some really good presentations. I've learned some stuff. I got to connect with Richard Dolan. I'm looking forward to hopefully having him on a podcast in the future.
Well, that'd be great. I mean, I think that Joe Rogan should have you on. I think, you know, you should be. Really, they should. I mean, you should be a speaker here. I really do. You'd be great. You'd be great. Yeah.
I mean, maybe one time. But I want to thank everybody out there as well who follows you, everybody in the UFO community. I've had this tremendous outpouring of support, honestly, here. People coming up to me. So thank you guys so much.
Yeah, very well. I always talk about you on my show because I've done several of my own videos on MH370, and I've not just from your perspective. I explored all the options. And I've investigated what Jeff Weiss said. I investigated what Richard Godfrey and Richard and Jeffrey Thomas say. Yeah. But so I've looked at all sides of the story. So when I eventually I was wondering for a while, but I decided I think you are right about those orbs and things. And I don't think they'll find it in the Indian Ocean. But are we close to the truth coming out?
What I would say is that we can't put a date on it in terms of it coming out. It could happen tomorrow. It could happen next year. It could happen 10 years from now. You know, like, it's going to happen when everybody wakes up. That's what I can tell people.
I find that these things can sometimes come unexpectedly, you know.
Exactly.
So it could literally happen any time. I hope so, mate. But thank you very much, Ashton.
Yeah, no problem.
And continue to enjoy this conference. I'll see you around. All right, I'm heading back now. What a day that was. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be doing a commentary, obviously, on the review of the speakers, but you know, it's actually getting quite arduous, and I think I'm not giving them like giving that section of the video what I should be doing with it. I mean, because I don't have time or energy because of everything else that's been going on. In fact, I'm thinking of reshooting some of the ones I did because they're not good enough. Because especially the one I did this morning, I was half asleep when I woke up. But then I had to get up, have breakfast, and go to the conference. And especially, I think today this time it's going to be more difficult because I have much more notes. Kelly Chase's talk in particular is going to need a very, very complex piece of commentary. And I don't think I could do it credit just by slipping in when I wake up, just sipping a glass of water, or late night when I'm just dropping off to sleep, as I am now. So I think I don't know what I'm going to do. I might have to, if I can find some time, like after maybe I might have to wait till Monday afternoon before I do any more commentary. Because I think I should have a lot of time Monday evening, because I think, you know, it kind of breaks up Monday after. Well, firstly, most of these people on Monday will be gone. I think only about a third of the people stay for the Monday. I'll be one of them because people have to get back to work, you know. Not everyone books the entire weekend off. But that guy's sitting right in the middle of the path. Was he? No, hang on. No, is he? Yeah, he is. And then I've got like so I think after Monday afternoon I should have some time. I should have some time to do this. So I might have to do that. But anyway, it's been a bloody good day. Another really massive packed day. I bought something. I bought something which I'll show you later when we do the souvenirs. I'm not sure whether to do the souvenirs at the end of the conference or before I go home. I'm not sure, because unlike last year, when this conference is over, my adventure is not yet. There's more coming. There's more coming. But anyway, for the time being, I'm just going to walk back to the hotel and go to bed. It's actually overcast at the moment. I can't see any stars. So you don't often get a completely covered sky in this particular place. But you can see, like, that actually makes it warmer. It actually makes the light more hotter and more sultry, which means I'll have to put the aircon. Definitely have the aircon tonight. No, I mean, it never gets particularly cold around here, even in the middle of the night. So the coldest time is like in the early hours before the dawn. And tomorrow is St. Theo's Day, of course. So yeah, that's going to be that's something to celebrate. Okay, guys, there's a big bright light in the sky. What's that? It can't be a star through this overcast. What is it? Let's have a look. Oh, it's a plane, I think. Yeah, red light on the port wing. I think it's just a plane, yeah. It's always worth checking these things out. See if it's making any noise. I might be able to hear it before you do. They may not be able to hear it above the noise of the cars. But I think it's a plane. What's it doing? Yeah, I think I can just hear some. Yeah, it's actually a jet. I think it's a jet plane. Well, good morning, guys and gals. Hope you like the t-shirt I've got on today. You know this one. I've seen it several times. Told you so. I've got Jocelyn's badges on again, and that other one there. And I'm here to talk about the speakers from Saturday. Who have we had in today's on the speakers on Saturday? Well, we had the one and only Mr. Nicholas Pope, and his talk was called Disclosure Lessons from the Pandemic. More here, and he talks about, and this is quite interesting because this talk was better than I expected. Yeah, I mean, I'm not ready to say Nick Pope has had a change of heart yet. I mean, he owes a few people some apologies, but this is an interesting little couple of hours hour and a half he gave us. First, he says that we shouldn't despair about the whole disclosure thing. There's more here and it's coming soon. He talked about the Mike Turner and what's his name? I've forgotten his name now. But it's Anna Paulina Luna and her task force. They've done JFK and Epstein, and they're looking into Epstein. Well, they haven't done JFK yet, but they had a hearing on JFK. And 9/11 UFOs. They haven't done the moon landings yet, but we should see. But what's interesting is I should point out actually that JFK hearing really it landed without a ripple. There was not very much anticipation to it. I didn't even cover it. And indeed, I don't know anyone else who did, really, in detail. Nothing really major was said there, because it wasn't really very significant. But anyway, happy St. Theo's Day, by the way, I should point out. Yeah, it is St. Theo's Day today. I mustn't forget that. And Nick thinks that Luna is actually fed up with Arrow. Now, this is this is interesting because this is slightly different to this is very different to what Steve Mumbling was claiming. He claimed that Anna Paulina Luna was actually fed up because the whistleblowers weren't going to Arrow.
That's not actually what seems to be the case, according to Nick. She believes that Arrow. She seems to be more on our side, and she sees that Arrow's not going the way it should. Now, Jay Stratton is writing a book. For those who don't know, Jay Stratton was actually an official in Arrow. He was sort of like the head of the Arrow's previous incarnation, which was the unidentified anomalous phenomena task force, UAPTF. He was essentially Elizondo's boss. Elizondo talks about him a lot in his book. And he believes that he recruited David Grush specifically to do what David is doing. This is to go around the military-industrial world, so the military and intelligence community, and work this out, find out what's going on, make contacts with the military to bring these things out. He talks about the time when the news broke about David Grush, and it was 2 years ago. It has been 2 whole years. At the exact date, I remember it well, but it was actually during Contacts in the Desert. It was actually the Monday of Contacts in the Desert, and there was an emergency session. A lot of the speakers stayed on. They cancelled their flights and they stayed on a bit longer. And I wish I'd been there. That'd have been so fun. I'm always hoping. I mean, it could happen. I mean, it could happen this year, in which case I'm in the right place. I think that might have influenced my decision to come here last year, actually, in case something like that happened again. But, yeah, I'll be curious to read his book, definitely. So, and Nick confirms that Grush was real. He knows a lot of people who know Grush. He lambasted the character assassination of David Grush by Ken Klippenstein. I mean, I endorse that completely. I mean, and I couldn't disagree with Nick anywhere there. Yeah. And then Nick says, he asks a deceptively simple question: is disclosure easy? And this is a question I've asked myself many times, because of course I've written 3 books. I know I keep plugging them. I've sold another one, by the way, to someone called Joya. She's already paid me. I've got to take the book in today. It's like that. My books are all about that question: how it could happen, what would it be like, things like that. What's next? I can't read my own handwriting. Yeah, because it would involve several things. Firstly, they have to confess to lying. They would have to confess. The government would have to confess they've lied to us for over 80 years at least, probably longer, because the crash retrieval thing is much older than Roswell. But there's this is one of the reasons that I think the idea of a fake alien invasion would be attractive to them, because it would get them out of that sticky hole. It would be the ultimate spin doctor for relieving them of the burden. You know, saying, well, yes, UFOs are real and we lied to you. And why? Because we felt like it and it benefited us at your expense, at your enormous expense, taking into account things like environmental destruction, famine, wars for oil. How many people have those killed since 1947? Millions. But they could admit that, or they could just make up some story. And of course, there's lots of other reasons why they may make up a fake alien invasion scenario. But one of the things that could get, you know, some of the more wavering people on board, or those without a globalist agenda, will be, look, it sounds a lot better from their point of view to say, yes, aliens are real and we lied to you. But we did that for national security reasons, because the aliens are evil. We didn't want to give anything away to their spies who walk among us and things like that. But they are planning to invade, and we need to come together as one. We need to unite as a single species, a brotherhood of man. So we need an international state of emergency to save the planet. Temporary, of course. And when we have defeated this evil, the power that we have taken from the people, we will return to the people. So yeah, that's why I think a fake alien. That's one of the reasons I think a fake alien invasion is on the cards. I know Steve Bassett doesn't agree with me, but then there's also he dwells back to what he talked about last year. Maybe one of the reasons they don't want to tell us is it's a secret too terrible to be told. I mean, in this case, something real, not fake. Could they be demons rather than aliens? I saw an interesting review. It was actually by Dave Cullen, Computing Forever, of the film, not Arrival. He liked Arrival. The film, the M. Night Shyamalan film Signs, that rather than them being aliens, they're actually demons. Which is, they're not specifically referred to as aliens in the film, so maybe they are demonic entities. Also, I mean, like I said, there's that saying, be careful what you wish for in case you get it. You want to know the truth about aliens? Well, try this on for size, buddy. What if the Earth is a giant intergalactic barnyard and we are the livestock? What if we're inside some kind of alien scientific test tube? See what I mean? Some people might not want to hear that. They may think in advance, oh, I wish someone hadn't told me. Because, I mean, I've made this point many times. Whatever the aliens choose to do, they're capable of exerting far more force than we are, which is why we shouldn't be shooting at them. If leaving aside the moral reasons, it's poking a very big bear with a stick. Nick says whether that's true or not, there are government officials who believe it. They know that aliens are real, but they believe that they are demons or some kind of intergalactic Farmer Giles or something, or some kind of like little bio. We've got the alien equivalent of Gary Nolan putting us in some kind of petri dish. They do believe that, and this is their motive for the cover-up. Nick mentioned Objectgate, which is interesting, and he talked about the John Kirby, I think was he Biden's national head, Biden's DNI? I'm not sure. Biden's national security advisor. I don't know which it was, but it's obviously Trump has appointed far better people to that role. John Kirby, someone asked him, like straight out, do you think these could be non-human? And as he was walking away from the podium, he just looked at them and says, lock your doors tonight. I mean, I'm not going to repeat the stuff I said about Objectgate. I've done 4 videos on that? 5, I think. I did one afterwards as well. Oh, I did a Redux as well, just more recently, like an anniversary one. Then Nick says, is there a connection to other things, such as what do John Mack, Leslie Kean, and Bob Bigelow all have in common? Famous ufologists, what do they all have in common? Or UFO enthusiasts? Well, the answer is they're still interested in UFOs, but they've branched out from that, and they're interested in psychical research, investigating the afterlife. And they're also very influential. They all come from very influential families. Bob Bigelow obviously is a billionaire entrepreneur. But John Mack apparently had he's someone famous in his family or someone big. Leslie Kean is the daughter of the guy who chaired the 9/11 Commission report, which is maybe that's not something particularly prestigious, but there you go. They went from UFOs to death, as Nick puts it very bluntly. Not that they died, but they just became interested in death and like what happens, what the death process and its aftermath. So, is that the kind of dark side of things? You see, it's and then Nick says something. He says he compares, and I was a bit cynical when I saw the title of his talk, but I was actually pretty impressed with this. Nick compares the you-know-what pandemic. I don't think I'm gonna have to be careful what I say now because I want this on YouTube. The thingy pandemic, or the disease, to disclosure, and he says, is it a test run for that? Not maybe even deliberately. Probably, I don't think he says either deliberately or it's being used opportunistically as a test run for disclosure. Now that's interesting because I never thought of that before, but he's got a point. I don't personally think it's a test run. I don't think they just deliberately engineered it to say, let's put this disease out there and see what people and have this incredibly over the top lockdown. Let's lose our collective minds as bureaucrats and just to see, or pretend to lose our collective minds, just to see how they'll react to aliens. I don't think that, but they might have. You can bet all the top psychologists in the world have converged on this. All today's Isabel Menzies live to see how they can manipulate us. All right. Those in. I put those in will not believe it. I don't know what I mean by that. I can't even understand my own handwriting here. But there were, for example, government contingencies on pandemics before. They were all like they were not adhered to necessarily when the real one came along. But they've had COVID, they've had disease pandemic. I've said it. Oh dear. That's only said the word. But they've had disease pandemic scenarios since forever. I mean, ever since probably the Black Death. And Nick said he spoke to people about how they would do these things. What would they do if, like, the ambulance paramedics were too scared to come to work? They bring the army in to do it and things like that. Mind you, I can't imagine any scenario on earth in which NHS paramedic drivers would ever be too scared to show up for work. They would show up for anything, believe me. So would the hospital, portering, service. It's St. Theo's Day. So it's very appropriate to bring that up. At least ideally, I think there are some characters who wouldn't, unfortunately, in today's portering, but I would. If it was the Book of Revelations, I would turn up and I would do my duty. And Nick Pope has actually made a film called Apocalypse C-Word. I'll have to look that up. And he mentioned someone called Jordan Henderson Art. That's interesting because he showed a couple of really good images of like pandemic scenarios and memories. And funny, if he's very much on our side, Pope, over the pandemic thing. He's he's against all the lockdown. He's against. He has the same suspicions that I do, apparently, of what's going on. It's really, really cool. But he said this event could be like Disclosure. It could be the only event comparable to Disclosure since World War II. But there's a difference, and he points this out. He's right. We know what war is. We know what a disease is. And so maybe 9/11 was more of a comparison. Well, Nick doesn't share my views on 9/11, I can tell you that. There's a very good debate, actually, with the late, great Anthony J. Hilder, where he sort of takes Nick to task for that. And well, one thing would be that we conspiracy theory nut jobs would be, that was always said, wasn't it? That whenever these things happen, they come out with wheel out the conspiracy theory nut jobs line. But these, the people we call conspiracy theory nut jobs, which of course includes your humble servant, are being proved right. I mean, this is what this T-shirt means. I mean, I put UFOs for told you so, but I mean, it could refer to dozens of subjects in the recent years. What's this? Because, for example, even the CIA now says that the C thing was a lab leak. After years and years of calling us crazy for saying that, they say, "Oh yes, we think it probably did leak from the Wuhan lab." Duh. And we go through this strange situation where they call us these names and call us crazy, and then 6 months later they just admit we were right without any apology or any acknowledgement that they changed their position. So then there was the Q&A. Someone asked if the C word was planned by a super governmental organisation. Good question to ask, Popey, I must say. The answer, Nick, has no direct information. He can neither confirm nor deny it. He can't rule it out. I think he laid out all his usual cliches. What's it say? Manoeuvres to their advantage. Oh, right, yeah. Someone asked... someone made a good point that they would only ever do Disclosure if they could somehow maneuver it to their advantage. And I mean, so that's the point I made. I mean, I think someone else understood the same thing that I did in that situation. They say it may not necessarily be a fake. He didn't say it would necessarily be a fake alien invasion, but he said that it would be. He would say there would be some way they would do it if there was some way they could make money out of it. which is going to be tricky because a lot of the major money-making sources in today's world, and I'm not against money-making, I'm not a socialist, but you know, the things like the oil industry. If someone demolished the oil industry, that'd be fine with me. It's a massive polluter. It's a cause of, well, it's the motive and the lure from 80% of the wars that have taken place since World War II, or since the age of oil, even before World War II, since 1900 or so. What's this? I can't read that bit. The problem in making these, it looks like decision out. I don't know what that means. Oh, right. Yeah, I can't read that bit. As far as I'm scribbling away like that in the, often the lights are low and I'm sort of looking up on the speaker. Now, there's this guy called Pascal. Did I tell you I met a bloke called Pascal? Yeah, he's an English guy from Brighton, and I spoke to him afterwards because I heard his accent, and I thought I'd go over and introduce myself. And he made a point I've made, especially in my Helen Duncan videos. Is there a cover-up of the afterlife? I know there's a strange parallel between the UFO cover-up, possibly, and that of the fact that we live on after our death. Would that be suppressed? And I think it might be for surprisingly similar reasons to the way they suppress alien life. Not the economic and energy things, though, but the societal changes. Now, I'd asked him, have you seen the film The Discovery? And she said, yeah. It turned out it was a different film called The Discovery, but I described it to him because I've done a review of The Discovery, which this is a film that it's actually on Netflix. It was where this guy Thomas Harbour, this mad scientist played by Robert Redford, who just proves there's an afterlife, and as a result, people start killing themselves every time they max out their credit card. I think this might have actually inspired some people, possibly James Randi, and maybe some others in the skeptic movement, to do what they do. They know it's not. They know what they're saying is bollocks, but they think, well, it's what was it? Plato called it a noble myth, and because it's not true, but they had to say it because the truth would be devastating. I personally don't think that would happen if it became common knowledge that we had an afterlife or proof. I think, look, suicide is a horrible thing. It's of course we've lost people. I've lost people I know to suicide, and it's an awful thing, really, really horrible. And for the person who does it, who's lost the will to live, and for their loved ones, it's far worse than losing them. It's far worse it's the grief over someone who's committed suicide is people say it's far worse than any other form of grief. And it's a much bigger tragedy. But people commit suicide who believe in the afterlife, and people commit suicide who don't. And indeed, it's like there was this great, very good documentary called The Cult of the Suicide Bomber, because Richard Dawkins made the point, which I think is incorrect, which was, well, if these Muslim suicide bombers, if you prove to them there was no afterlife, they would stop doing their bombing, wouldn't they? Because they'd lose their religion. Well, maybe, but maybe they would, because they would lose their religion and not do it anymore. But the thing about it is that the suicide bombing culture in parts of the Middle East is actually not necessarily connected to religion. I mean, this guy is he's a former CIA officer who spent a lot of time in Iran. He made this point in this. If you can get it on YouTube, it's bloody brilliant. He made the point there were lots of during the various communist uprisings across the Middle East, there were also suicide bombers. These are orthodox Marxists who believe in no God or afterlife at all, but they also carried out suicide bombings in the full and certain knowledge that it would be the end of their existence permanently for eternity. Yet they still did it. Anyway, that's kind of an aside. But I don't believe people. I mean, I don't think there's a connection. But personally, I doubt that there is actually a connection between belief in the afterlife and a tendency to commit suicide. Nick said, someone asked about the secret space program. He says it may or not be there. Yeah, it may or may not be there. We can't rule it out. All right, he asked about Big Brother. Nick is actually he actually says he's a libertarian. And he also says the authorities are afraid of this disclosure backlash, and they've got every right reason to be. Yet, and possibly the lack of it seems sad to make this point, but the lack of a COVID backlash. I mean, COVID seems to have gone down the memory hole. Lack of a COVID backlash. There's, maybe there won't be a disclosure backlash, which probably may encourage them, which may be a good thing, but it's a bit of indictment on the human beings. Look who else has gone down. Look at the memory hole is an amazing thing. It swallows up people who are so prominent, people and things that are so prominent just get swallowed up. Kamala Harris. I mean, who's she? Who's she? A year ago, everyone knew her name. Now people go, what? Never heard of her. Even Osama bin Laden, he vanished from the media after the invasion of Afghanistan. Probably because he'd served his purpose as a boogeyman. They feel, that Pope. That was the end of Nick Pope's talk, and I must say, that was it's a very good talk. Excellent. Nick is, as I said, I spoke to him briefly at the after party on Friday night, and I was polite to him. I will be again if we meet again. Nick is someone I don't necessarily trust. Trust is very much based on reputation, and he has yet to earn back any trust he might have had originally before he lost it. He owes quite a number of people some apologies, including me. But I can't help but like that talk. I think it was a very, very good talk. How sincere it was, I don't know. But I mean, maybe he's for real now. I don't know. Jesse Michaels then was in the Crystal Ballroom. He's funny enough. He brought up the C word pandemic again. He said that's what started him off. He's quite a recent addition to this team. He's made a big stir. I mean, he's like many people. There's many people who are quite famous now in this community, who are newcomers. Like Ross Coulthard is a perfect example. Jesse Michaels is another. He started off talking about free energy. He moved into other areas. This was again primarily a Q&A. People asked him what was the reaction to the Harold Malmgren interview in the mainstream media, and it's been none pretty much. And there was an article by Skeptic about it, saying that Malmgren was talking crap, which I'm curious to read because I like to investigate what the other side is saying. Unfortunately, he didn't. Jesse Michaels didn't bring along Malcolm's delectable daughter, but you can't, you can't have it. It's not. You can't have it all. Ashton Forbes was in the room, and Jesse mentioned Ashton Forbes, and it's weird. Like I made this point to Ashton because I did interview him briefly last night. And when people are face to face, generally people are more good natured than they are online. And Ashton's been going around talking to people he'd had arguments with. He deleted some of the stuff. He's deleted some of the things. You must have noticed he's deleted some of the things he said about some people. So there's always at these conferences you often get a sense of reconciliation. I mean, I've had my own process like this with Nick Pope. Peter Robbins, he's coming. He's going to be doing a talk today. That's another matter. But anyway, he says there's this quote here: "Be as agile as possible when the shit goes down, and pray." That's a good phrase. I'll remember that. In other words, surf the apocalypse. It's like the surf the apocalypse thing. Yeah. He mentioned the Thomas Townsend Brown experiments. He said he's been going to Peru. Jesse's been off to Peru to investigate the Peru mummies and the Boogosphere and Jaime Maussan. And Jesse seems like a good-natured guy. He can criticize people without hating on them, which is something I admire. Not many people do that these days. I try not. I think I'm quite good at that. But most people are not very good at that. They tend to make every single disagreement personal, and they get all backslappery about it. He says that Jaime Maussan is an amazing person, but he's often wrong. And I agree. Now the Peruvian mummies. And funny enough, funny enough, Jesse mentioned Steve Mera and his investigation, and I've covered that in detail. I've interviewed Steve Mera twice about this matter. And you remember last year, I actually got on stage when they had an open mic, and I said I thought those proving mummies were fake. This other guy got on stage and disagreed with me. He's a doctor of some kind as well, and he ended up on that same guy. I can't remember his name, but he ended up on the Vetted podcast saying how he thought they were real. The whole, they prompting me to start the Wi-Fi up again. The Wi-Fi in my room, like I say, is I'm trying to back something up on Mailer Big File, and I'm gonna have to take my laptop to the dining room for breakfast to do it. Thomas Townsend Brown, yeah. Oh, where are we at? He mentions the MH370 orbs, and he doesn't know if they're real or fake. But you know, Ashton cheered at the back. Ashton was there. He believes it. He believes what I do is possibly. And Ashton is convinced these are secret government technology, which zapped MH370. And he could be right, but I'm still open, very open to the idea that these are extraterrestrial. And he talked about the Grush interview, yeah. And then I went to the Anthony Peake workshop. What? I can't read that. Oh, what's that? I can't remember. Now Anthony was going to do a different talk. He had to cancel it because he couldn't get hold of the slides. But he asked, why does he do what he do? And he says, people ask me why I do what I do. It's not for fame or fortune. I wanted to find out. I need to know. I'm a curious person. It's part of the human condition. And he says, none of us choose to be born. And it's like life is often portrayed as a very, very strange kind of condition. It's like a blip of like awareness, bracketed by an eternity of non-awareness. So before you were born, after you were born, for billions of years, you didn't exist. And he calls out matter being empty space. You know, there's quarks are the only thing that are solid, because even the hadrons in the middle of a nucleus now, the 0.111% of a nucleus with any substance, it turns out that they are mostly empty space, and the quarks make them up. But then the quarks themselves inside the hadrons, they themselves might end up being empty space. You know, it could be this is an eternal regress. The Big Bang. What is the Big Bang? He says. How did it happen? Why did it happen? What is self-awareness? Past, present, and future. I don't know why I wrote that. What happens? And we ask ourselves the question: what happens to other people when they die? Which has been very much on my mind at the moment with Gareth at this particular week, definitely. And what happens to other people? And then, of course, what will eventually happen to me when I die? Good question. There are the options we're given. There's only 3 official ones. Religion, that is, the God takes you to heaven and you spend eternity worshipping in. Atheism, that is, life's a bitch and then you die. Or life is something you could make something out of and then you die. And the third one is reincarnation. You come back as somebody else, and you know, or you come back as a flea or a Brahmin, depending on what kind of life you've lived. And Anthony thinks none of those make sense, and he thinks that the religion thing is crazy, because the religion thing is basically you spend eternity worshipping God. But he quotes an Iranian proverb or an Iranian parable that talks about how long eternity is, that kind of illustrates it. Eternity. I mean, imagine a big block of granite in the middle of this land, and then every year a bird flies down and with a tiny thread of silk and brushes across it, and then he comes back the following and he brushes the silk across it again. And if he does that for long enough, of course, the rock will wear down to nothing. It'll become dust. But it'll take an awfully long time. And he says that is the first second of the first day of the first month of the first year of eternity. But even that year could be compared to that block. So eternity is everlasting time, which we can't quite grasp. And it's weird because some eternities are bigger than others. Have you heard of a guy called Georg Cantor, famous mathematician? He was obsessed with a paradox, right? if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you forever you get an eternal amount of eternal numbers. But if you count only the even numbers, 2, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12, or the odd numbers, 3, 5, 7, 9, etc., and you keep counting them for others, you also get eternity. But if you think about it, the last 2 eternities are smaller than the first one. So how do you work that out? Well, Cantor tried to, and he drove himself crazy. And everyone else turned against him as well. I think that might be why he had his breakdown. But it's an interesting point, isn't it? So he has his see, I don't believe, I said this before, but I don't believe the reincarnation model is mutually exclusive from the ferryman. And I've told him that, and I think he took my point. He talks about past life memories, time dilation at death, and this is like Zeno's paradox. You live in a street with 100 houses. You're in house 1, you need to get to house 100, so you walk halfway to house 50, and you stop. And then you walk halfway again to house 75. And every time you walk half the distance you did before, you'll never reach number 100. That's Zeno's paradox. He talks about drug-induced time expansion, and this is interesting because that time when I smoked the wacky backy, I've done it twice. On both occasions, I had a time dilation. At one point, I thought it was gone midnight. It was actually only 8 in the evening. I remember. He mentioned a film called Vanilla Sky. Now, I've not seen that, but there's this panoramic life review in it. It ends with a character played by Tom Cruise falling, and he never reaches the ground. I've got to see that film now. There's noises outside my room. Packets of sprinklers. Anyway, he mentions the difference between near-death experience and real death experience. Apparently, at the moment of conception, I didn't know this, when the sperm meets the ovum, there's a flash of light. And when someone dies, there's a flash of light. I didn't know that. People have reported such things on deathbeds. And he talks about deja vu, and he says there are 72 explanations for deja vu, and one of them is his, and his is the only one based on science. He also mentions this strange thing I've not heard of before. And it was not far from here, actually, here in the Coachella Valley. I have to look this up. There was an incident in the 1970s where someone buried a school bus with kids inside, and they hypnotically regressed the driver, and the police managed to find it in time to save the children's lives. And then he mentions someone called Wilder Penfield, who I don't know why I wrote that down. I'll have to look it up. I mean, I was thinking I'll look it up on Wi-Fi when I'm back in my hotel, but I can't do that now. Wi-Fi's back on at the moment. I'll try. Let's look. Wilder Penfield. Wilder Penfield. American-Canadian neurosurgeon. It's this guy. Him. Let's have a look. Oh, Wi-Fi is so bad here. I'll come off screen share when it kind of sorts itself out. Come on. Right. Oh, I'm trying to. Come on. Right. Yeah. Was an American-Canadian neurosurgeon, expanded brain surgery's methods and techniques, mapping the features of various regions of the brain. Oh yeah, I remember now. He found out that he could make people remember different things by stimulating different parts of the brain. That was it. That's why I actually brought it up. He talks about his friend Rebecca Sharrock, who has what's the word? Photographic memory. Was it awareness, self-autobiographical memory, astonishing self-autobiographical memory. The Harry Potter test. He says he did a test to see if she could remember Harry Potter, that entire Harry Potter books. Now I didn't get the chance to talk to him about this. There's a Dennis Potter. They used to call them plays on the sort of middle-class BBC kind of commentariat used to call them plays rather than dramas. But there was a guy called Dennis Potter who wrote several of these. He wrote several rather surreal, a series of surreal TV dramas, which were actually very good. He's best known for The Singing Detective. which has hospital portering themes, which is interesting on St. Theo's Day. But he made another one called Karaoke about a man who, Michael Gambon, who's an actor who was very often in his shows, who keeps having strange deja vu experiences. And you don't know why. You never find out in this series. But then there's another series after that called Cold Lazarus, in which it's revealed that when he died, the main character was put into cryonic suspension. I've done videos about that. And he's basically recalling his life. And at the end of Cold Lazarus, he actually dies for real. That's interesting. I mean, that's something you'd be interested in that. And he talks about Groundhog Day. The guy the Graham Nichols is the guy who had Graham Nichols had a precognition of the London pub bombing in 1999, and he actually saw it happen before it did. But no one believed him, unfortunately, so it still happened. Could deja vu be like dreams? We're just recalling dreams, but then that's one of the experiences for deja vu. But then Anthony says, how could you know what dream you're going to have in the future? And he thinks deja vu is you're simply remembering what was in your previous life. You're communicating with your daemon, and you're remembering what was in your previous cycle in this life rather than previous life. It's important. I would distinguish past lives with past cycles of your current life. You're seeing a recording of that. There was a guy with a tumor on his pineal gland who saw many worlds, and he talks about the many-world interpretation of quantum mechanics. Rupert Everett and people like that, Hugh Everett, and he talks about Groundhog Day. That this is a great film. Bill Murray plays this comedian who continuously lives the same day over and over again, or newsreader rather, and it's a very, very good film. I asked him about the Mandela effect, and he said that was very interesting. He thought that was interesting. And his own M62 fog experience, and that's this song, which is called Rounds of Blues by Sean Colvin. This is an American folk singer he was very fond of. And he played it once when he was having dinner, and he said, "Oh my God, that's the sound of my death." And then he was on the M62, and it was all foggy. You know, the M62 that goes up through the Pennines, and it gets very foggy very often at the peak, at the mountain pass. And he was driving along, and suddenly his daemon made him switch to another lane, and this lorry in front of him shed its load onto the lane he was on. And if he'd stayed behind that lorry, he'd have been hit by this load of crash barriers, and the car, he'd have probably lost control of the car and maybe killed. And at that moment, he was playing that song. That song came onto his MP3. And there was a guy there who said he'd met the Styx ferryman, Charon. And then, of course, there was George and George. I went over to the Crystal Ballroom, and George and George were there. George Norrie, George Knapp. And it was kind of like a discussion where they moderated by Tom from Coast to Coast, the introducer, and Captain Ron. And they talked about their life. George said how he moved to Las Vegas in 1979, became a taxi driver, then got into journalism. Didn't know about the real Area 51. In those days, no one had heard about it, even in Las Vegas. Now, of course, everyone has, hasn't it? And then Bob Lazar came out, he first heard about it from John Lear, and he did an interview with John Lear in 1987, which is on YouTube. It's well worth watching. It's a good interview, man. Which he did, because he's been with KLAS for like 50 years now. He's really experienced, and then Bob Lazar came out in 1989. Someone said, will we have disclosure in the next 10 years? And I heard everyone muttering, no. And he says, well, I don't know. Now, it's interesting because I've got a bet on it happening before the end of this year. And I got, what were the odds? I think I got 500 to 1. I put a tenner on, so I get £5,000. I get £5,000 by the end of the year if disclosure happens. I did it with William Hill. Yeah. So So I mean, I'm sort of banking on it happening before the end of the year. I put the bet on back in 2020. I bet if I put that bet on today, I wouldn't get such good odds. I wouldn't. No, the bookies are probably lowering the odds. No, they definitely are. He talked about DroneGate, which is interesting, and he sees this as a regression because the drones are drone is just today's weather balloon, isn't it? That's all it is. And then the Voyager probe. Someone asked a question about the Voyager probe, about how it's come back to life, and if aliens are involved, which is interesting. Are the aliens evil? Well, it could be. I mean, look at David Paulides' missing 411 thing about UFOs. I mean, probably aliens are like us. It seems they, as I've said before, they exhibit both good and bad behaviours. They had a little talk about Stanton Friedman, God bless him. And Norrie actually said he's covered Stan the whole time because George Norrie said he carried out his first interview. George Norrie started in journalism in 1978, and the first guy he interviewed was Stanton Friedman when he first gone public with Jesse Marcel Sr. And the very last interview Stanton Friedman gave was in 2018, shortly before he died, with George Norrie. Now, something to be proud of, yeah. Someone asked the same thing that came up in the Jesse Michaels talk. Would everyone commit suicide if we knew there was an afterlife? George Norrie said, I mean, I could have butted in at that point and brought up the points I made with Discovery, the fact that possibly there's a cover-up and some of the skeptics are actively involved in it. They're not real skeptics, they just say they are. And he just said, well, look, why rush? I'm enjoying my life. Make the most out of the life you've got. If the afterlife exists, make the most out of it. Just enjoy it. Be as good a person as you can. See it as a precious opportunity, and make the most of it. And the thing is, you're going to get there one day. There's no rush. Take your time. I agree with that. Yeah. And then he mentioned they brought up the same subject which Nick Pope did, the UFO connection to the afterlife, John and Bob Bigelow, and then it comes on to John Leo and Bob Lazar. What do I write there? Are they disinformation for George Knapp? And George has always protested Lazar's innocence and has debated Stanton Friedman with this and saying that Lazar's not lying, and brings some intriguing evidence to bear, like the fact that he was at Los Alamos, and it appears there was some kind of cover-up of his role at Los Alamos. For example, he appears in the phone book because that's probably the thing that's hardest to delete. Yeah, all the other records of him has vanished. So why would that happen if he was just a janitor or something? This is interesting. Yeah, he lied about his education. He committed a bit of stolen valor there. Said, "Oh, I went to Caltech, I went to MIT, etc." Probably just he said that to impress people, but it wasn't true. So it's actually very important, actually, if you are a whistleblower, don't exaggerate your own achievements. Just tell people, because if you do, people will find out. They'll investigate and they'll find out, and it'll discredit the rest of what you say. But George Knapp has stuck by him. Then George Norrie talked about the Skywatch. What's this Skywatch? The effect. The effect disclosure would have on religion. Yeah, skywatching. I mean, skywatching's great. I mean, you can pay £5,000 to go and see go to one of Stephen Greer's, or there's others that are much cheaper. When I went to Penturk to the Skywatch there, you remember, I wondered how much it would cost me. Would Kaz Clark charge as much money as Dr. Stephen Greer? And I said, Kaz, how much is this going to cost me? She just bring some beers. Yeah, I think religion wouldn't suffer from disclosure. I mean, when the people say religion, they mean specifically Christianity. Hinduism, Islam, they already have the concept of extraterrestrials anyway. Jews they'd be fine with it, I think. Most Christians would be all right with it. I mean, Christianity, it survived the blow dealt by Charles Darwin. If it can survive that, it can survive anything. They can adapt. Then someone asked, what's the best abduction? And there was a kind of debate between whether it was Betty and Barney Hill or Travis Walton. That's a good question. I'd say probably Travis. Betty and Barney Hill was supposedly the first alien abduction, and that's actually not true. It's the first one that was publicized, it was widely publicized. I think the evidence is not strong there, but I mean it still exists, and I think that the Hills were really taken by aliens. And a lot of the tropes we associate with alien abduction began on that day. It was, being the first publicized one, it was also a fairly typical one. I think they were telling the truth. Well, I mean, Barney died in '69. He got ill and died, but Betty lived, I think, until 2002. There's actually an interview with her just before she died, and she tells the same story. She stuck by her story. Yeah, the thing about the phone book thing with Bob Lazar is that it's phone books. Always look for phone books because they're very, very difficult to delete, as opposed to other records. And you see, they do this sort of thing because this is one of the reasons I think Dr. Jonathan Reed is credible. I mean, a lot of people, so many people disagree with me, and they say he's been exposed, a fraud. It's kind of like a bandwagon with him. But I actually, I think, well, yeah, but I mean, his name appears in the phone book at the Child Psychiatry Department at Seattle University. What's the name of the guy who? What's the name of the guy who found it out? There's a researcher who found that out. He talks about Roger Lear and implants. Very interesting. Got one myself. Aliens. Do aliens walk among us? Captain Ron said no, but George and George said yes. And they asked him, "What was your best show on Coast to Coast?" That's tricky because Coast to Coast is so good, so incredibly good. I mean, it's one of my precious, not childhood memories, but my youthful memories is sitting in my home when I lived in Cowley, when I lived in sort of East Cowley, not far from where I am now, but it was further east. My baby daughter was playing on the floor in front of me. My ex-partner would be looking at we lived together. Yeah, all right, it's a long story, but me and my ex-partner moved in together. It's to do with social workers. She was sitting there watching some stupid TV program, and I'd be lost in a world of my own, with my earphones in, listening to a CD that I bought from Dave Starbuck's website of a Coast to Coast show, or an MP3 that I downloaded from my old dial-up of Coast to Coast shows. George Knapp, George Norrie, Jeff Rents. Not George Knapp, but I did come across George Knapp in those days. Yeah. Can you believe that was 30 years ago? Yeah, I remember that. But he says one of the best show he ever did was there's a guy who phoned up and said he felt suicidal, and George Norrie managed to talk him down. This is great. And today he decided to carry on living today. All these years later, he's still a regular Coast to Coast listener. Yeah. Someone asked if there was a secret base on Mars. They mentioned Jaime Shed. Some people are comparing Jaime Shed to Colonel Philip Corso, and there's some reason to say that because his Shed's gone quiet now. He was head of the Israeli Space Force, but he just sort of like vanished. Will Trump reveal something? Is this disinformation? I don't know. And then finally there was someone said, "Oh, we think the lady with the glowing costume who pretends to be an alien." I showed you her. She came forward as the final. I think this was a setup. She came forward as the final question, and she said, "Is it true that today is George Norrie's birthday?" And then everyone sang "Happy Birthday," and it appeared on the screen, "Happy birthday to you." And they bring out this little cake shaped like an alien with two little candles sticking out the top of it. And George blew them out. Yeah, that was great. Now, Kelly Chase. Should I do Kelly Chase? Yeah, I'm going to have to take a break before I do Kelly Chase because this is enormously complicated.